It's 5:30. I'd like to call the City Council meeting to order. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Gama.
Here.
Munoz Schnapp.
Here.
Rollins.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hernandez.
Here.
Mayor Berg.
Here. And seeing nobody from the public here, I think we can forego the public comment section. So our closed session items, if our attorney would read what we're going to be doing back there.
There is one closed session item for public employee performance evaluation. The position being evaluated is the city manager, and the closed session is being called pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Subdivision D1.
Thank you very much. We will now recess the closed session. It is still 5:30. Hey, Tom. Where is everybody? Oh, we don't start till 6:30, right?
Yeah.
6:30, right?
I thought there could be a lot more people this year. They're all here.
Yeah, stay.
Hey.
I sent you and Andrew an email about the citizens forum on what's going to be happening tonight. And I saw everything in the Mercury. I thought, it's time for us all to get together and talk
Yeah.
about the city.
Andrew is at a conference tomorrow and Thursday, so we'll have to look at the week of the 9th, next week, if you want
Yeah.
him as part of it.
Because I want to get an update from him, and I read your article.
Thank you.
Very
Oh, yeah, things are getting better.
Yeah. And if there's any more of that stuff we talked about, the city was doing, the nets and the whatever, update on that would be lights and stuff. Yeah, okay, next week.
Yeah, so we'll look at that next week.
So it'll, with Tom, it'll be next week?
Yeah.
I was there this Saturday, most past Saturdays. There's like 50, 60 people out there using that park. And all the facilities, some of the guys who live, you know, I mean, so I mean, it's nice.
So they'll all arrive safely.
No, I have to teach tomorrow. They kind of wanted some assistance getting ready for they want to do a vigil. And so I was giving them
getting more emails from these people. They're convinced, yeah.
Oh. Called you. Those emails are coming in.
Like, what is this all about?
No, I just wanted to strangle someone.
Yeah. How do you think Steve felt?
Oh, that's what happens when you go there. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Good lesson. Lesson learned. Pass it around. Let us all see it because we all have political antenna. We know when it's going to flow. It's not going to flow.
And there's a way to present it too. I mean, timing is everything. How it's presented. You gotta socialize it.
Yeah.
Ask them first.
That's what I figured out. So, we're going to get a presentation, which hey, go to the community and get their support and come back. They're going to blow him out of the water. It's a presentation, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not. Oh, it's not in here.
Oral,
Recommendation.
which is another good reason to tell them to go out and get community support. I mean, this doesn't come with a staff recommendation. This is coming as a surprise to all of us, really. So I would recommend you see that guy. John King said no. Go talk to him.
Right.
It surprises me that
Right. He is part of this. This hotels, including Queen Mary, which he talks about. But you would think that if you're starting staff first, do your proposal for him. He doesn't want to wait. He wants to get it in front of the council because he thinks it's a great idea. You will all embrace once you see it.
My first Gold Coast Transit meeting is tomorrow at the new location behind Costco. Nice office.
it's so nice to work in. It's nice to be in a nice facility like that.
Oh.
Santa Barbara County EOC.
Oh, wow, really?
So nice.
Is it in their administrative center?
No, they built it. They had it built.
Built-in latte machines.
They have their own separate kitchen, refrigerators, they have their own mapping room where they produce maps on those great printers. And it's just, it's all modernized. It's big. It's nice. I mean, they built a specific, constructed a specific facility.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
So it's just dedicated.
Your letter?
Oh, yes, thank you very much.
Good, that's all
Nice
right.
comment. Thank you.
Hey, Tom, how many people on Friday?
Coming on this Friday? Oh, I don't know. I don't know how much room is going to be available.
What's Friday?
Well, I don't,
Regional beach
the regional
erosion.
beach erosion.
Yeah,
I can't-
I don't know. Out of my group, maybe 6 or 7.
Oh, okay, that should be fine. I mean, I just don't understand why your group would want it.
I think they want to be informed, and it's all about, for us, protection, but we want to be informed. We don't want to speak from, what can I say, guesswork.
Rather
So
than,
there's nothing, we're going to be there to sit and listen.
okay.
There's nothing for
Yeah,
us
because
to
we have
add.
a real specific objective we want to accomplish with that meeting, and that is to enforce strategy.
We're there to be informed. Okay, there's no.
You just scared me when you said you wanted to send 15 people, because that's more than probably.
Well, now I thought about it, because the only room I really know over there
It's a smaller room, so I don't know. Other than where they have their regular meetings, the guest area is not that big.
Open up their rooms. They have dividers, they can make them small, they can
Rest easy. We're just there to listen.
yeah, I'm not too worried about it. try to do that, but sometimes I can't get away with it. I want my signature.
You know, this is a topic that they're going to be talking about that's not on the agenda. And the reason it's not on the agenda is that we're not talking about it. Here they all come. RV. What are the other ones you think we're going to have? Oh yeah, we'll get a report. Wait till the end. That's on the agenda. So, I'll watch him light up when Zeroni shows up and starts talking about it. Tonight. Let me see if I can find it. No, no, he's not on the agenda. I take it back. I thought he was. I thought he was going to be here. Maybe it's the next councilman.
Yeah, the 16th. Yeah. Oh, this is 16th. Should never be.
Okay, you're going to give the inspiration. You're ready.
Catch.
Tree trimming. I'll take him first. Resort. It's going to be resort. I think it's going to be resort. Homeless. That's a little different. Okay. Ormond Beach. Okay. Where's Tom? Let me find Tom. Ask him.
discuss some of the homeless encampments that are out here on Ormond Beach. The Ormond Beach area has been identified as an environmentally sensitive area. We actually have city ordinance.
I'm not sure what he meant by the end. I can restrict it. Right? No, that to me. No time. No, let's consider general public comment. All right. Campground. Tree trimming is different. RV park resort. RV park. I'll support you. Friends of Ormond Beach. That might be homeless. And then Tom King is just, he wants to be at the Miranda Park, different. Use you really should like sleep. It could be not that.
Because the rest of it's going to be the gas station, the oil change, and the other thing, the gas station oil change.
I'll make a little comment. Yes, I was thinking about this. Yes. Thank you.
That was Shake Shack. That's different. Shake Shack. This is
Shake Shack. That's pretty famous.
yeah. Well, this place is pretty well known.
Yes, it really is an assortment.
Crazy day.
You got steak burgers, prime steak sandwiches, hot dogs, chili, side, milk,
Oh, okay. Well, here.
yeah, they got the sour cream, Frisco, jalapeno crunch, you can substitute coleslaw for it.
So I gotta remember.
You can customize it. White truffle
We debate it every year.
I'll try and shut them down if they're going to start. I know I'm saying. She wants 3 minutes too, right? No, they won't. I'll shut them up.
We're small enough to where and I think at that point we come and say, but for now,
Are you gonna go tell them to speak?
The German spelling, huh?
Chili cheese. Chili, no onion rings. Try it, it'll probably be good. Burbank, probably. Steak. Well, it's
I got 3 minutes to go here.
That's interesting.
Since you were coming from Pasadena.
Lost so much vacuuming and that's all piled in there. It's like mom did when she lost all those blankets and everything in the dryer.
Yeah, it's
is it the camera?
Turn the timer on. No, not yet. But I can when I want to. Excellent. I don't mind it.
It's facing you the way it should be.
It's facing you, Steve. That's what happens when you come late. You sit in front. Good evening. I'd like to call September 3rd's council meeting to order. We will start with the flag salute. If you'd all please rise and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And our Mayor Pro Tem tonight will be giving us our inspirational, if you will, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's so great to see all of you here tonight. I love having these seats filled. It just demonstrates that you care, and we really want to see civic engagement, so I just wanted to express my gratitude for you being here tonight. The last 2 days I've spent working in the Santa Barbara County EOC in response to the boat fire that occurred off Santa Cruz Island. All of you have probably heard and been following it in the news. So I thought it would be very fitting to open up the meeting in honor of the lives lost during this horrific tragedy. When faced with tragedy, we are often left with a loss of words. We feel like we need to say something, but we just can't come up with the right sentiment. Therefore, I would like to state on behalf of the Port Hueneme City Council, we are completely devastated by the event that occurred yesterday morning. Our deepest sympathies go out to the injured and the deceased and their loved ones. A tragic fire has claimed 39 souls, and we have little way of answers. Well, 33 souls, I'm sorry, and little way of answers at this time. Our eternal gratitude goes out to the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services, their incredible professionalism in managing this horrific event. We'd also like to thank all the first responder agencies from Ventura County and the state and federal agencies who came to our shores and assisted with the rescue and recovery. We will move forward and never forget this horrible incident, and as we preserve the honor and the souls that were lost. So with that said, I hope that you keep these individuals and their families in mind, and that you do something. And in honor of September being National Preparedness Month, I challenge you all to do something for all the lives that are lost, for doing something in honor of not only first responders or victims who have lost their lives in earthquakes, in fires, or in floods, and go out and buy a bottle of water, buy a flashlight, buy some batteries, and get yourself prepared. Okay, that is your call to action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If the clerk could now take the roll.
Councilmember Gama. Here. Munoz Schnapp. Here. Rollins.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hernandez.
Here.
Mayor Berg.
Here. It's been a nice little vacation in August, and now it's time to get back to business again. So we have an agenda to approve. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Councilmember Gama. All in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Our city attorney, would you like to report out on our closed session activity?
Thank you, Mayor Berg. There was no reportable action in closed session at this time.
Thank you. Okay, and we do have a presentation to start with. That will be from our police department with an update on the city of Oxnard, Ormond Beach, Encampment, evacuations. So, Chief Salinas.
Well, we have a sold-out crowd here today. I'm glad I got a haircut.
That's good.
Got a couple sticking straight up.
I think. So in the last couple months, since our last council meeting, Ormond Beach and our transient issue has been a hot topic here in the city of Port Hueneme, as well as in the city of Oxnard. I've spoken on this issue before. In fact, at the last council meeting, I gave an update, but clearly our community is here to hear about what we've done even before this started, what happened over the last 2 months, and what we plan on doing here in the next few months. So that's what I'm here to report today. You'll see is I now call this transient issues as opposed to homeless issues, because quite frankly what we are seeing out there on the beach are these are individuals who are service resistant and don't want help and aren't looking for a home, because right now there are many beds available not only in the homeless shelter but at several recovery homes that are willing to assist some of these individuals who suffer from drug addiction and mental health issues. So here we're talking about, here's actually a picture of Ormond Beach back in 2018. This is the first time I brought it before City Council to talk to them about this emerging problem. And so we were aware of this almost a year ago. And so what we did is in December of 2018, Public Works Director Don Villafana and I had a meeting with the City of Oxnard, specifically their Assistant City Manager and 2 police chiefs, Assistant Police Chiefs, and we talked about this issue. Unfortunately, they felt that they did not have the money to address this issue at the time and that they would be merely relocating this issue to a different part of the city. So at that time, they did not want to address it. So here we are in July of 2019. What were 6 dots has now nearly quadrupled in size. And so this is what I presented to City Council in July of 2019. Here are some pictures of the area that we are talking about today. Specifically, you can see the Port Hueneme Pier in the foreground, as well as to the right there you see the Ormond Beach Lagoon and the ocean to the left. And you can see the many encampments there along that stretch and the trash that is being left behind. That is just piles and piles of trash. You'd be amazed at the type of stuff you see out there, ranging from bedroom furniture, kitchen cabinets, and so on. So I contacted Ventura County, who has a program who brings out a team of about 10 individuals that include doctors, nurses, probation officers, psychologists, and so forth. And they actually go out there and actually attempt to provide them with assistance and services. And this was done in June of this past year. And they came back again in August of this past year. So in the past 3 months, they've been out there 2 different times. And so all these people have been offered assistance and have been resistant to that assistance. So now this leads us to where we're at now. So for someone to come forward and say we didn't offer these people assistance or give them some sort of renewed faith and some other options and to how to help them is just not the truth. And this is what it looks like from the ground view. This is a picture of just in the last month when I reported in July. It's just the same picture of all the shopping carts that we've recovered and property that we've recovered during the month of July. I just wanted to point this out because we do now have an employee of the city of Port Hueneme whose sole duty is not only to cover up all the graffiti in the city, but is also to assist us in the recovery of shopping carts from our transient population. So, does anyone know who this is? Sophie the dog. So I could say Sophie saved Port Hueneme or saved Hueneme Beach because what happened to her just recently brought a lot of national attention to our city. Got quite a few people upset about one of the local transients that lived along Ormond Beach and what he did to one of our local residents' dogs. And as you can see here, it went all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast, the Miami Herald, the Atlanta Journal, NBC Universal in New York, Sacramento Bee, really every news outlet and the Associated Press picked up this story. So it really put a lot of pressure on the city of Oxnard, and it really brought our residents together, and quite a few of them sent a lot of emails to the city of Oxnard in regards to how Ormond Beach was now affecting our residents. So here's a video of how Oxnard responded and what was posted, or how they reacted approximately a week after this incident occurred. See if we can get some. Can we get some?
Days of a sustained effort to address some of the homeless encampments that are out here on Ormond Beach. The Ormond Beach area has been identified as an environmentally sensitive area. We actually have city ordinances here in Oxnard that prevent any type of camping. And over the last several months, we've identified upwards of 30 different encampments that had grown in the Ormond Beach area. On Monday, we had officers from the Oxnard Police Department and the Port Hueneme Police Department, along with representatives from Oxnard Fire, Oxnard Environmental Resources, Oxnard Housing, and Community Action of Ventura County to begin coming out and contacting the individuals that are in the area. We provided them written information about resources they can reach out to, and also letting them know that they needed to leave the area. We've been back the last couple days just advising the additional individuals in the area that we were going to start a cleanup of this area. This morning we came out, we contacted about 15 individuals. We're working with them to get them out of the area, and then over the next 6 days we plan on conducting a cleanup operation where we're going to clean up the extensive amount of trash and refuse that has been left here in the Ormond Beach area.
So that earlier picture, well, first, as Assistant Chief Sonstegard stated, it was a collaborative effort with several agencies involved, including the City of Port Hueneme. We provided police officers as well as heavy equipment to assist with the cleanup. Several of those tractors involved were equipment from the City of Port Hueneme, as well as several officers that were out there on the beach during this day providing notices and evictions. This is what it looks like now. There are still a few dots up there, but that is closer to the Halico site, or even beyond the Halico site, and in Oxnard. We have found that these encampments over the past couple of years have not had as much of an impact as the ones that were just evicted, and those are the ones that are closer along Ormond Beach and along the lagoon. The transients that are located there in South Oxnard, most of them approach and access that location from a different part of Oxnard and not through the City of Port Hueneme. It's just too far for them to trek through the sand to get to that area. It's not to say there might not be one or two, but I think the residents have noticed a significant difference over the last week and a half in terms of the transient population along Hueneme Beach. And so this is the area that really concerns us, and as you can see, there are no more encampments in this area. So this is what Oxnard Beach looks like today. I sent up the police drone today, and so now you'll be able to see exactly what it looks like today and how it's been cleaned up. So this is pretty much starting from the J Street Canal and working east. And as you can see, all the encampments and the trash have been cleaned up. So when Assistant Chief Sonstegard spoke, he talked about a sustained effort. For the last 2 weeks, they have had Oxnard patrols out there sporadically, intermittently. They don't want anyone to know what their exact schedule is. So just about every day for 4 hours a day, either day, afternoon, or evening, they've been going out there to make sure none of the encampments are resurrected. As well as I have an overtime detail along the Hueneme Beach. You've probably seen a few more officers out there during the day, are making sure that none of the transients are making their way back out there. As you can see, it's a pretty long stretch. It's probably close to 3/4 of a mile, and there are no more encampments there, so that's great to see. You're going to see the drone turn around, and as it pans northbound, you will see a few encampments, but again, that's more so on the Oxnard side. It is still an environmentally sensitive area, but we have found that those transients that are located there are not the ones that have been creating disturbances in Hueneme. So here you're
That's
going to
the
see
slide.
roughly 10 to 12 encampments. Still in the environmentally sensitive area.
What cross street have they been pushed to, like off of?
So
Hueneme Road?
we're going to come up right here on the right-hand side is going to be Perkins Road. So this is, in fact, even beyond Perkins Road. It's east of Perkins Road, closer to McWayne and Arcturus, down by the BMW plant. You're right, it is still a little further down. So here is the first corner of the Halico site. And the very first cross street here you're going to see is Perkins Road on the right-hand side. But as you can see, what we call Ormond Beach Island, that has all been cleaned up. There are no encampments on that side as well. So just right there to the middle of the picture on the right is the dead end of Perkins Road, the bridge that crosses there. And again, as you can see, no trash, no encampments, and it's pretty much been cleaned up. And this just takes us all the way down to J Street. Let's see if I can. Aaron, can you give me the next slide?
My keyboard.
So here are some ground photos taken this morning of what it looks like at ground level. So you can see it's all been cleaned up. Not a lot of trash, if at all. So what are some of the solutions here in the future? How do we sustain this? Here are some ideas that I have. First, the fencing needs to be fixed, not only along the farthest stretch along east, but they really need to bring that fencing all the way even as far as the J Street Canal. As you can see, there's a picture of the fencing along with the broken cable, and that all needs to be resurrected and put back up to prevent transients from camping on that side of the beach. And the signs need to be clear, so that needs to be fixed first. We need to add additional signage, especially along the Port Hueneme-Oxnard border, that lets people know while they're crossing into Oxnard, these are the specific ordinances that Oxnard has, which prohibits camping and fires, vehicles, and so forth. They do have a sign there. Here's a picture of it, but it's very small. Anybody walking by it, driving by it, they're not going to be able to see what that says. So I would like to increase the signage along that stretch, whether it be a giant billboard of some sort, something that people cannot ignore as they're walking by it. I'd like to talk about new city ordinances, specifically no bicycles on the beach, or no wheeled devices greater than 12 inches, so people can still pull their wagons and smaller contraptions, but this is to prevent bicycles out on the beach. This is actually pictures from today, and I know that will help us a great deal and prevent transients from carrying their large loads from parking lot C all the way down to Ormond Beach. So that's one suggestion. Another is to make it a violation of our city ordinance to alter the contours of the sand dunes in any ways, whether they're digging them out or using them to erect their tents. No sleeping on the beach between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. We have a no camping ordinance, but we don't necessarily have anything that says there's no sleeping on the beach. And just making a lot of these things not only prohibitive, but actually erect signs all around our beach that prohibit all of these distinct items, especially as you drive into our parking lots, you cross parking lot C, or any of the main entrances into the beach. As we've been doing over the past couple of weeks, we've taken a very much a proactive enforcement, zero tolerance. We've issued many citations over the last couple of weeks, especially those having to do with shopping carts and illegal dumping. And as many have seen here in the community over the last couple of weeks, we've actually had scheduled cleanups that have been coordinated by Councilmember Gama and Hernandez. Those were 10 days ago, and then just this past weekend, HPC, Hueneme Patient Care, sponsored a cleanup out at our beach. This September 21st, I believe, is California Coastal Cleanup Day, and the police department, let me get to it, plans on coordinating a community response or deployment on this day. We're going to bribe some of our residents by feeding them to come out and help clean up our beach. I mean, if this type of update can mobilize this many people to come out just to hear me talk about this, imagine what we can get out on that day to help us clean the rest of that beach. So that'd be great to see. My goal is to get 200 to 300 people out there on this day, and we'll be feeding everyone. Hopefully getting one of our dispensaries to sponsor food that'll be hosted by and prepared by our Police Officers Association. So for anyone that comes out, fills up a bag of trash on their way out, we'll feed them. And we've also received a sponsor to use the pickers, the hand pickers. I believe the port has agreed to sponsor purchasing 125 hand pickers, so people now don't have to pick up the trash and bend over and pick some of that disgusting trash up that has been left out there. So we have that we'll have out there for our residents. So what has Port Hueneme done over this past year? I know I've reviewed this before and I've added a few things. We had a meeting with the Oxnard City Manager's Office. We removed the recycling plant next to Mary's Market at Park Avenue and Ventura Road, which has seen a significant change in the type of activity that's out there. We actually have the new position that was approved by City Council in terms of shopping cart retrieval and graffiti. We went on a ride-along with Ventura PD to see what it is that they're doing. We also have homeless training in Anaheim on September 30th, where we're sending 3 officers down there to see what they're doing differently to deal with the homeless issue. We've collaborated with our dispensaries and purchased beds for the homeless shelter in Oxnard, which our homeless do visit and use. The police department has added a position, actually 3 positions to its staff to help address the homeless issue, or they are going to eventually be able to assist with the homeless issue. They aren't hired for that specific purpose, but to give you an example, we just hired, or going to be hiring 2 community service officer positions. By doing that, they'll be assisting us in transporting people from our jail to county jail, and so that'll help us a great deal in terms of taking the criminal element or the vagrants who are committing violations of law out of our city and taking them to county jail. And as many of you know, we participated in the town hall meeting in Oxnard that a few of our council members attended that I was a part of, that was called Humanizing the Homeless. So we are not just complainers complaining about this, but we're bringing awareness to this, and we want to be part of the solution. And then something that people don't know is we're the only police department in the county of Ventura that every single one of our police officers is CIT trained. We're 100% compliant. CIT standing for Crisis Intervention Training, and that plays an important part of when we actually make contact with these transients or homeless people and getting them the help they need and knowing how to talk to them. So I talked about Coastal Cleanup Day. These are the 2 locations on their website that they have. One's over by the Promenade, by Market and Surfside, while the other one is meeting there by the Alaska Memorial. It is on their website. As you can see, the locations are listed on there. And then I wanted to address a quick rumor that was going around. And I found the posting in regards to it and how this kind of got started in terms of there was going to be a temporary RV park placed in Lot C to help deal with the homeless issue in the city of Port Hueneme, and that everyone needed to be at City Hall at 6:30 to help address this. That couldn't be further from the truth. There has been no talk about that amongst staff or city council. I do know Councilmember Gama wrote an opinion piece suggesting it as a simple idea, as a solution to be talked about, but in terms of City of Port Hueneme moving forward with this idea or even beginning to bring it forward before council, is we have not talked about this, and I myself don't think it's a very good idea. So that's where we're at with this specific rumor that was posted on social media. So that concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions for me this evening?
Councilmember Rollins.
First of all, I've been out there quite a bit, and I commend both you and the Oxnard Police Department for not only acting quickly, but dealing with the problem in an efficient manner. The problem is, as we move forward, and we've had some conversations on that, there's a lot of the homeless, as you call them, transient, that don't want the nice homeless facilities because they have to follow rules. And a lot of these groups, these individuals don't want to follow rules. What do we do if we find them working their way back, not in the beaches perhaps, but within the community, within the parks? I mean, I've always been a long advocate that, parks and beaches are not campgrounds. They're not meant to be those things. But nonetheless, we're dealing with the problem effectively now. As we move forward, how do you deal with that person that is mentally unbalanced, that doesn't want to go to a regular homeless structure, and wants to just stay out there? Or the youth, what I would call the youth groups, that are doing this because they're going through a phase, they like to be free-spirited and out there. How do you deal with those two groups?
So first, I encourage the public to call us whenever they see that type of activity. Sometimes we'll get there in just a few minutes. Other times it does take a little bit, depending on where it falls on our list of calls for service and how we triage our calls. Right now, we are taking a zero-tolerance approach. Everyone's getting a citation, especially if they're being vagrant. It is much more difficult to address the issue when they're not necessarily doing anything wrong and they're just wandering. That becomes difficult. But eventually they involve themselves in some sort of behavior that will allow us to actually address it, especially if it's mental health issues. And that's where calling the police department all the time comes into play, because we are able to build up enough of a case to show the mental health workers that they're unable to care for themselves. And so especially if an example would be the gentleman that kicked the dog. A couple days prior, he had been out on the beach simply harassing beachgoers, kind of scaring them, but not necessarily doing anything that was to a criminal level. Had that type of behavior repeated itself, we would have been able to establish a case against him to get him the proper help. Unfortunately, the incident involving the dog occurred, but we want our residents to keep calling, especially right now, to help us address the transients from returning to this specific area. Because we are taking a zero-tolerance approach, even the transients that had moved from the Ormond Beach area into Port Hueneme, we're now starting to slowly address that population, and they're starting to find themselves other places that they're not going to constantly be contacted by the police. So,
Are there many that are not accepting the services?
I'd say 80 to 90% of the people that we contact want nothing to do with accepting services or being transported to a homeless shelter. Of the, I'm going to say 50 thus far, 2 have accepted a ride to the homeless shelter.
Councilmember Schnapp.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for stepping forward and working with some of the folks over at the City of Oxnard to get this situation under control. How often, if any, patrol has Oxnard committed to in order to to enforce their ordinance on Ormond Beach?
I spoke with them this past Saturday, and the only thing I'm aware of is they are going to continue their enforcement at least through the end of this week. I'll then get an update from them at the end of this week and see how they feel about doing it an additional week. As you can see on the picture and the video there are no encampments along that stretch. It's just a matter of preventing anyone from returning. So at this point, we can assist them with that because we can do checks in the morning and in the late evening to make sure no one's returning to that area.
Yeah, because certainly, you know, we have teeth in what you've developed here, but that ordinance is our fangs, you know, that actually then do prevent people, and there's some serious consequences then
Right.
in getting to that area. Earlier in your presentation, you also talked about larger signs, and maybe they're interpretive signs that talk about just the sensitivity of the area and all of that to engage, you know, at least not a conversation, but at least provide some information and awareness about as people are crossing into an area that is pretty sensitive and is a habitat that they would maybe mind a little bit more.
Absolutely. There's a couple of those near parking lot C, but that is a good recommendation to put them more along the border in that stretch of beach. So you pretty much have to run into them to and read them.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Gama.
Thank you, Chief, for all the work and your leadership. Really appreciate it. I just want to be clear, if a transient person is seen with a shopping cart, we should call the police and he will be dealt, or she will be dealt with?
Yes, so what happens in that instance is our officers will respond. They will take the shopping cart because the shopping cart does not belong to them. It's actually a violation of the Business and Professions Code. We will allow them to remove the property, give them a bag to remove the property, and if they cannot take the property with them, we will actually store it for 30 to 90 days at our Public Works building for them to recover the property, and then we will take the shopping cart and return it back to its owner. So now it's out of our city.
Okay, and just speaking for myself, I feel like I call the police an awful lot. And there's times where I just don't call the police because I feel like I call the police an awful lot. So to the public out there, what do we want to say in terms of, you know, if you see something, do we need you to call the police?
Yet you can call our non-emergency line. That's also an option. And just simply tell the dispatcher where you see the transient and the shopping cart, and we will respond as quickly as we can. It may take a little bit, and that's all they have to do. And we will, I'd say about 90% of the time, we're able to track down the transient that's in possession of that shopping cart, and then we will deal with it accordingly, and they will be issued a citation.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for your hard work, and I want to especially thank all the workers who had to suit up and wear the protective gear to go out there and actually handle that the debris. That could have not been fun.
Right.
For those workers. So please extend your thanks to them on our behalf. I also wanted to know about the legal rights of homeless. There is a new law in place, and maybe for our audience, you could explain when you issue a citation to somebody sleeping, you can only do that if there is if there's not an available bed or facility that's
Right. There is a
open.
United States Supreme Court decision that was recently issued, or a ruling which states that we are not allowed to cite our homeless for any type of camping ordinances or violations if there are not any open beds available for them to sleep in. Right now, we do have open beds at our homeless shelter and at several of our recovery homes and centers. And so right now, we do have the authority to issue citations for illegally camping, especially out on our beaches or out on our public right-of-ways.
Okay, thank you. I think it might be helpful to describe or provide some specific scenarios in which the public would be calling you to address a homeless issue or a transient issue. Because I think if you leave it up to us to figure it out, we're going to be calling all the time.
So typically transients that are harassing your way of life, transients that are sleeping next to private businesses, whose property is interfering with people's businesses or residential homes, blocking sidewalks, illegally possessing shopping carts, panhandling in the roadway where it's affecting traffic. It has to be specifically affecting the flow of traffic for us to intervene in those instances. Transients illegally camping out on the beach. Some of them have dogs on the sand. Those are some of the violations that people can actually call us, and we will respond and address the issue.
Thank you. Thank you again.
And Chief, keep in mind, you've got our support 100%, and we really appreciate, the actions you've taken. We support also the partnership with the City of Oxnard and what they're doing. And we just hope that vigilance will, be required here. We know it's going to be key to keeping our community as clean as it can be. We need everybody's help. Call the police, call somebody. When you see something, you have to call and do something about it at the time. If we can stop it early before it builds up, you see, we don't have to have these large campaigns, but we have to be vigilant. So please, any other questions or comments from the...
Can you work me through the citation process? Like, in my mind is that they do something wrong and you give them a ticket. Well, what are they going to do what are they going to do with this ticket? I mean, they're not going to pay it.
Inevitably, it'll turn into a warrant. And when it turns into a warrant, it now gives us the ability to actually physically arrest them and take them out of the city of Port Hueneme and take them to county jail, where they'll probably spend a day or two in jail to pay for their fine, and then they'll be released.
Okay. And then have you had any experiences where they've gone into the community at this point, where we moved them out of the wetlands, but now and we've tried to put them to different places.
Where are they?
Where are they now?
I see them walking up and down the street.
Or have you had any experience? Maybe they've moved them far away.
She knows where
There
they are.
definitely was an increase in calls once they got evicted, and only the people behind you can really tell you where they're really hiding. But right now, I think things are relatively back to normal the way they were pre-October 2018 right now, and it's just a matter of us staying on top of it and getting people involved to call us, and yeah.
Pro Tem?
Yes, I had one more question. The graffiti employee who's also now doing debris removal
Yes.
at these encampments, and is this individual assigned to other areas of the city as well? Or?
They're not cleaning up encampments, they're just helping us retrieve shopping carts.
Okay, is that our employee or
Yes.
is that Oxnard's?
It's our employee, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you.
One more question. Over the years, I've gone out to Perkins Road and park in the public parking area, and recently,
It's closed.
actually, they closed it, and the amount of debris and trash and all that out there was just incredible. And so I'm wondering, what kind of collaborative process are we doing with the city of Oxnard? And, I don't understand the thinking behind closing that parking lot for law-abiding citizens that want to go eat their lunch or have a drink there.
With the Halico site next door at the time, it probably was an unsafe area to be in. And so I'm thinking that Oxnard thought it was just safer to make sure that the public was not out there visiting that lot late at night, especially with all the encampments out on that island at the time. Now that that area is being cleaned up, it may allow them to reopen that area, but I can talk to them and ask them if that area is going to reopen or if they feel it's better suited for it to be closed at this point.
Thank you.
Good.
I have one more.
Pro Tem?
I just want to state that, we have to do our best here in this community, and I think you've done a yeoman's job in addressing the problem, because we have to remember here that we don't have shelters in our community. We don't have any nonprofits that I'm aware of that are helping the homeless. So to assist and collaborate with Oxnard and having a seat at the Regional Homeless Committee, I think is very important for us to demonstrate to the region and to our residents that we're doing our part.
Absolutely. We're not just complaining. We're actually trying to be a part of the solution.
Good. Thank you very much. Great report. Okay, thank you very much. We now have our general public comments session. These are 3-minute comments. 3. I'm not going to turn the clock on unless I have to, so I'll ask you to keep it brief. We actually do have comments on things other than the rumor. We do, and so I'm going to call on them first. If we begin to run out of time, then we will just pick this session up after the council meeting. So please try and get straight to the point. Let us know what you might be thinking, and we'll see if there's a pattern in this thought. And so please, let's start with Linda Kaplan regarding tree trimming on Surfside Market.
Thank you. My name's Linda Kaplan. I live at Anacapa View Beach Homes, and I've owned there for 20 years. And in the past, the city has done such a great job maintaining the palm trees along Market Street and Surfside Drive. And last year, or this year, for some reason, they trimmed the trees along Surfside, and they stopped at the driveway of Surfside 1. They have not trimmed any of the trees along Market Street for a number of years. And then the trees starting at the driveway of Surfside 1 to the flags have not been trimmed in several years either. And I don't understand why they would have stopped at that driveway. And the danger on Market Street is that when the wind blows, those prawns fall on people walking and the cars that are parked there. It's a very dangerous situation. The harbor came in and did their due diligence and trimmed all their trees beautifully. And I would just like a request that they finish the job on Surfside and Market. And my kudos to the Chief, Salinas, for a great job that he did.
Thank you very much. How about Rick Kehoe on the homeless? Welcome back, Rick.
Hello, I'm back. My name's Rick Kehoe. I'm retired law enforcement, 30 years. I've been speaking to the City Council and Chief Salinas for about, 3-4 months now. I think the last time I spoke to you, I asked, does somebody need to get hurt before we take action? Unfortunately, it was Sophie, but I'd like to give you props for taking quick action, and Chief Salinas and his officers. I've been out there. I use the beach almost every day. I see his officers out there doing a wonderful community policing job, and save for the last 10 that are kind of playing whack-a-mole with you right now. They moved and went back. I think it appears to me that you've got the beach under control. With that said, I've noticed an uptick in the transients hanging out at Miranda Park. We still have our regular suspected drug dealers and whatever else is going on over there. And I would just like to refresh your memories. There's been a number of ideas that have been proposed. I understand we were going to put cameras, and there's been a glitch in the get-along on that. We do have an office that was used back in the day for a police field office. You have a great, wonderful group of police explorers that might be able to be put in that office. You know, any kind of city presence or official presence in that office would go a long way to deter the illegal activities going on at Miranda Park. There's a few soccer and baseball teams that use those fields to practice, and when they're there, it chases off the transients. So I just wanted to remind you of that. Last issue, for those people that still think that most of the homeless are just folks that are down on their luck. As Chief said, 90% of these folks are meth addicts. There's a very eye-opening documentary on the National Geographic Channel right now having to do, and it tells you about the new super meth that's being sold in the United States on the streets. It's about 10 times stronger, about 10 times cheaper, and very addictive. So if you get a chance, tune into that. It's on the National Geographic Channel, and it will really open your eyes to what's going on with a lot of these folks. Anyways, thank you once again for being responsive.
Thank you very much. David Scrivener.
Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
So I had a lot of stuff I wanted to say, and the chief took all my thunder away. 'Cause congratulations. Did a fantastic job, even including, I was going to say, let's get the bikes off the beach, because that's how they transport things, and lo and behold, here it is. So I'm really happy with that. I have two concerns that weren't addressed so much. The first one is Oxnard has a history of chasing people from one place to another. They've currently got them back up against the slag pile, and it's somewhat horrifying, but they're digging into the slag pile, into the toxic waste stuff, and it's all going to come roaring out there when it rains. So what sort of a lunatic would dig into a toxic waste pile? I don't know, but there are some of them there. So now that affects us, because as that stuff washes into the lagoon, it washes into our beach, and God knows what's in there. So I've contacted Oxnard about it, and it's radio silent, so I have no idea what they're going to do about it. The other issue is Miranda Park, and bluntly, the need to deal with the transients on the beach has been paramount at this point, and I think the problems with Miranda Park have been eclipsed a little bit by that, but I live right next to it. I walk over there, I look over my fence, and there's a guy sitting there from 10 in the morning until dusk every day, 7 days a week, dealing hard drugs. If you sit there on a hill and watch, people come, he gets a stash, they all show up. They're obviously, by the look of them, heroin addicts or meth addicts. This has been going on for years. Nothing's happening, except business continues. So there are people at different points in time passed out on the grass out there, look like they shot up their heroin and went to sleep. I know Councilman Gama saw somebody shooting up in the park next to his house. So this is a beautiful park, and it's somewhat dangerous to go over there and deal with these people unless there's a lot of people around. And I know that the cameras were supposed to be installed there, and somebody dropped the ball on it. We have no cameras. We're supposed to get them back in May or June. Now we're talking December. I can't see how this is happening. So I don't know that that's a total solution for our problem, but I think drug dealers don't really want to be viewed doing their deeds. So anyway, that's what. Then the last thing is, I think we all come here and ask something from you. Tell you our problems, demand answers.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying as a community, we're willing to support you if you can give us some guidance in what would be helpful to deal with situations. A lot of us will do it, not everybody. Okay, so Councilman Gama started this cleanup with on Saturday mornings, and lo and behold, I've got myself doing it now. And at first it's kind of embarrassing, and you're thinking, I was a geek walking around picking up stuff, but your bucket gets filled, people start thanking you, you feel good, you meet some nice people, and you walk away, and Hueneme is clean. So I think if you can give us some community things to do to help, I think a minority, probably a large minority of people will join in and do it. So,
good.
Tell us what you need, we'll do it.
Thank you very much, David.
Thanks.
Perhaps at this moment, Councilmember Gama, you might want to mention something about the coastal cleanup coming September 21. You are involved, aren't you?
Yes. Councilmember Hernandez and I are the site captains for Memorial, the Alaska 261 Memorial. I think it's our third year, maybe the fourth.
Well, it's 2016, so it's our third.
Third year. And we expect over 100 people, maybe 150 people. And we also, every week we do it, and we're looking for people to come help us out. We have sticks available to help, because it's always, we don't like to send people out with just a glove on their hand. So if anyone's interested, please, the California Coastal Cleanup is scheduled for September 21st, beginning at 9 a.m. The chief is going to help us, and we're going to focus on the Ormond Beach area. Even though it's in Oxnard, we want to take care of the environment. And a lot of the big stuff has been removed, but there is a lot of little stuff out there. And we trucked out of there couple 100 pounds of trash this last weekend, you know, and we just, one little area just getting all the little things, and so if we just keep doing this, we're just going to keep making it better, and I think we'll all be better off. So if you have nothing to do on the 21st, come. Also, if you have nothing to do every Saturday morning at 8:30, come, and we'll hook you up with a bucket and a stick. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Jennifer Rivas.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Rivas, and I've lived in Hueneme since 1985, so I grew up here, and I own a home now, and I have 5 children, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous because this is the first time.
Take your time.
Okay. I wish I didn't have to come up here, but I'm pretty disappointed with some stuff I've been seeing in the community lately, particularly down at the beach with the city's use of herbicides. Particularly in the public areas like the beach. I feel that that it presents a public health risk, and I have some pictures. I don't know.
Thanks, Jennifer.
That was the following day after they sprayed down there the herbicide. It's either they call it Roundup or glyphosate or just herbicide, but I guess what I would like to do is ask the city to ban the use of herbicides in Port Hueneme, because more than 50 cities and counties in California have already done that. LA County just did that this summer. This came after there was 3 separate trials against the company that makes the most popular herbicide, Roundup. And they were sued by a gentleman, a former groundskeeper. He's 46 years old, and he has terminal cancer now. So he won that lawsuit for $49 million. And also the entire UC system, they no longer use herbicides either. And I don't like it, and I feel like a lot of other people in our community don't like it as well. And the following day after I went out and took those pictures, a lot of the blue had they sprayed it on sand, which it's kind of not really that wise to do because it just gets disturbed and blown away and then further contaminates other places in our community. But there was a gentleman out there sitting on the curb and just, in a day that they just sprayed the day before, and, he's just eating a sandwich and having a drink. And then the following, that weekend, there was a beach cleanup crew out there, and there's a man and a woman, and they're standing in it. They didn't know that that's the area where they had just sprayed, days before that, and they're barefoot, have their thing in there, and with their feet in there. And I'm glad that Hueneme is becoming a city that's, more beach oriented and wants to be known as a beach community. But at the same time, like if you just spray the beach down with a cancerous chemical, and then you tell people, oh, here's a stick, go dig around in it, go pick up stuff. I don't think that that's a wise thing to do, and I think we should follow some of these like-minded people, like other counties and other cities in the UC system, and that we shouldn't use that chemical as well. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Joan Tharp.
Mayor Berg, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, staff, and Chief Salinas. My name is Joan Tharp, and I, too, am a little bit nervous, and I'd like to address the opportunities Port Hueneme has in leveraging our proximity to Ormond Beach and the wetlands. First, I'd like to thank Chief Salinas, his officers, city leadership, and the staff in engaging with your counterparts in the city of Oxnard to start the cleanup of the beach and lagoon areas. There's been a much appreciated expenditure of resources in the effort to remove the vagrant encampments in the city of Oxnard, or in Ormond Beach. And although there's still a lot of work to do, and we're not entirely convinced that Oxnard will continue to keep vagrants out of the area, there's a marked change in the appearance and atmosphere of our beach and the beach just east of the city line. Council, Chief, I understand that in your duty of serving the citizens of Port Hueneme, you must focus on what is going on within the city limits. And I assume there is some tension when one city steps into another city's business. but it seems to have been a successful collaboration, at least for the west side of the wetlands. We hope the collaboration continues in order to keep the vagrants from repopulating the area. We will continue to monitor the situation and are partnering with other groups to ensure Oxnard is serious about stewardship of Ormond Beach. The City of Oxnard, the Nature Conservancy, and the California State Coastal Conservancy have been working on the Ormond Beach Restoration and Access Plan, which will bring visitors to Ormond. If all goes according to plan, construction will begin in 2024. However, as far as I know, there has been little or no consultation with the City of Port Hueneme, and so no chance for your input into a plan that includes Hueneme Beach as an access point. The public comment deadline is September 30th. There are several waterways, as you know, that drain into the wetlands, including Bubbling Springs, which runs through our city and joins with Sumas Creek. The city website has a small blurb about Bubbling Springs Channel, but nothing about the wetlands that it feeds into. The city is missing an opportunity to promote our city's proximity and access to the 2 miles of beach that is adjacent to the wetlands. The city website could be amended to advertise Hueneme as a gateway to Ormond Beach. This would not take away from people spending time on our beach, but it would add to the experience. There are other ways that Hueneme could promote our access to Ormond Beach, and I'd be happy to discuss these with anyone that's interested. There is growing interest in stewardship and preservation of Ormond Beach, interest that may well bring changes before the Ormond Beach Restoration Plan is enacted. Wouldn't it be great if the City of Port Hueneme could use this interest to bring more visitors to our city and beach? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Joan, thank you so much for coming. I think that's a great way that we can collaborate together, and I know a phone call I made to Mayor Pro Tem of Oxnard really lit the fire under a lot of people to go check out that estuary, and it was because of the gentleman you're sitting next to and his comment at a city council meeting months ago. So I appreciate the work that you and the others have done for years, and we look forward to developing this collaborative effort. Thanks.
Okay, our next comment cards are all going to be about that rumor that taking place, a vote we were going to have or something that we did. I even think I saw you sent an email that said, none of this is, we don't even know what this is. But let's get started with this, so please get to the point and we'll see what the theme is. Cynthia Weiss.
Well, the first one was already answered. Thank you very much. I saw my name up there. What I really want to talk about is Miranda Park.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Seriously.
That's okay, it's not on the agenda.
All the dead trees that nobody wants to do anything about. You'll have to excuse me, I have a cold. I've counted at least 20 to 25 pine trees that are dead and dying. I sent Steve Gama many pictures. I don't know if you ever got them, but I never got a thing back from you. And I want to know what you guys are going to do about it. And plus the fact, nobody's watered that for the last 4 months, 6 weeks. And I'm just real curious about why. That aspect, you know, the whole park, it's in the inside of the park. You are getting some water on the outside. But I've been told you're not going to do anything about the trees. I see that they chopped a couple of trees, but those the pine beetles is what's getting your pine trees. And then some of the other trees are half dying. And I want to know, is anybody going to do anything about it? I have, you know. So can anybody answer that for me?
We can't.
You mean you're just not going to do it?
We're not supposed to.
You mean you're not supposed to?
Answer your question. We're supposed to keep things picked up and clean and well-maintained, and you got a good point, but it's not on the agenda. We can't talk about it with you and make decisions. He's taking notes right now, and tomorrow and the next day, there's going to be a lot of discussion behind closed doors about what are we going to do about this, and we may ask for a report next council meeting. But this meeting and these comments are all about things that are not on the agenda.
Well, I can't help that. That's how I feel.
It's just the rules.
And, you know, Steve has all the pictures I took, and all the way down, you know, to the beach, there's dead. So my problem with not doing something right away is that those beetles are going to kill whatever is still alive. And then it's going to cost you a
Yeah, we
bloody
understand. It
fortune to replace
festers.
it.
It's like a wound. It just keeps getting worse if you don't take care of it.
Yes, Mr. Berg.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing. I was told there are 6 homeless behind the VFW sleeping at night.
Okay. John Ortiz.
It was a good evening. Thank you for hearing me. It was about the rumor, so that's why I spelled it with a K, because I was thinking, what? KOA campground for the homeless. All right. And then, yeah, that would be not strategic. Inappropriate for our homeless society as well. Completely inappropriate. It's a very preposterous proposal. Being a former nurse for the county public health system, I've also experienced quite a few transient individuals in my day. And 90%, as Chief Salinas mentioned, 90 are resistant to any type of assistance at all. So I've been there and I've seen that. But another topic I'd just like to break subject now, because it's moot about the campground, is on Industrial Avenue. We have 2 buildings that seem to be quite vacant, and the trees, the bushes, and the shrubberies are growing all over through the cracks in the sidewalks and growing out, and there's a funky green paint all over. I'm like, somebody sprayed herbicide all over the sidewalk. Also down Industrial Avenue, where the old Public Works building was. So I'd like to know, is something being done about this building? Is somebody buying this building? Is something happening to it? And that of the Hueneme bait processing plant, which is across the street from it. What's happening out there? Both buildings are becoming an eyesore. Stuff is growing over, and then just down the street is CPP, who's keeping their bushes and shrubbery all clean and nice and neat. So it's becoming an eyesore, and we have residents there like us at Surfside 3, as well as the Hideaway, and it's just getting pretty ugly out there. If you could address it, I'd really appreciate it. I'm sure the residents of Hueneme would too. Thank you.
I see him taking notes. Thank you very much. Okay, Margaret Townsend.
Council members. Yes, my discussion tonight was going to be on the RV campground. I'm glad it was only an opinion piece. But what I was concerned about is if that did move forward and we had to deal with campfires. I'm in Surfside 3. Per the Coastal Commission, we cannot have air conditioning. So I have to sleep when it's hot. I've got windows open just to keep it cool to have airflow. Well, currently we are dealing a lot with the smells coming from the waste treatment plant as well as Indy. Waste treatment plant I can handle, but when I wake up in the middle of the night from something coming that is burning my eyes, that's not just a bad odor. So I'm not sure if you guys, ladies, gentlemen, are doing anything about that, working with the city of Oxnard. Currently, I email every one of the city council of Oxnard every time it happens. I'm not here all that much though, so I know it's happening more than the emails that they are getting. And literally, I take the last email chain that I sent them, and I just add the next one, and I will add the rest of you on, which I never even thought about, so that you know how often it's happening. And then a second point is, our ground squirrel population. I own a pest control company. My degree is in agriculture biology. Our ground squirrel population is out of this world. And right now, LA and their homeless is dealing with typhus. You get plague going, it's a recipe for disaster. So I would at least hope that you might consider doing something about it. You got to understand they are undermining our parking lots, our trees, as well as the sidewalks. So that's going to be pretty costly when all of those start filling. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I see a couple of council members over in Oxnard at least once a week, and they're getting tired of looking at me now because I always bring up the same topics, which are right there. Susan Brady. Okay, Susan, time's up.
She gets an extra 3.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the police department and the
co-working of the council to clean out all those encampments.
So do we.
Because it was really causing Surfside 3 a lot of problems. So thank you for that. And I want to thank you for giving your time. I know it's not easy, and sometimes you don't get a thank you for it. I'm here because there was an article, and I'm not here on the rumor, but I am here on the article that was published on the Ventura County Star, and it had reportedly said that an idea, not a proposal, was being thought of to make an RV and tent encampment for recreation. Everybody I've talked to, they've brought it up to me, are really, really against this. So I'm just letting you know that before a lot of work goes into it. That's about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Andy Santa Maria.
Good evening, council members. Andy Santa Maria, I'm the board president of Surfside 3. And the council is made up of 5 members, and each one is 20% authority. When a council member speaks, gives an opinion, people listen. And whether it's an idea, proposal, whatever, that person is 20%. All you need is 2 other council people to agree with that idea, and then you have a majority of the council. So my message is simple. Most of the residents of Surfside 3 do not want encampments, tents, RV, or developments in front of Surfside 3. If there are proposals to develop that property, we would like to be included at the very beginning so that we could have input. And there are members in the community in Surfside 3 that would be willing to participate and give ideas and share. So thank you very much.
Sounds like a good idea, Andy. Thank you. Okay. We have a rebuttal. Steve.
Are we still on the agenda item for Ormond Beach, or are we in, because
General comment.
No, general comment.
So are these comments related to the Ormond Beach?
RV part.
Okay, well, I wanted to make a little bit of a statement regarding the agenda item and the update that Chief Salinas made. So.
Oh, on Chief's report?
Yeah.
Can we do that now?
Well, I thought that we were still on that item because of all the people voicing their opinion on Ormond. No,
We're on this one here.
No, general comes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay.
Yeah, I can wait till the end.
Let's wait till the end. Perna Pie.
Because of the redundancy, no comment.
Thank you, sir. Sandra Briggs. Yeah, after Sandra gets done, we got Valerie Lamecca coming up after that.
Good evening. I'll make this brief. I know that, that there are a lot of people here talking about the rumor. And I'd just like to say I've been a resident here. I've owned my home here since 1988. And I've enjoyed living in Surfside 3. And I'd just like to say that I hope the RV park in front of Surfside 3 remains a rumor, not a reality.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And who was next? Valerie Lamecca? Thank you, Val. And after Valerie is Diane Hottendorf. Go ahead, you're up.
Yep.
You can ask us.
So all I have to
do is call and tell them where I see those 20 carts
Yes.
parked along the side of the road?
Yes. Do you know the number?
No.
We got to give her the number.
I have a computer and a phone book. I'm sure I can find it.
Yeah, and you check out the city website. There'll be information on reporting carts. It's the facilities division
Right.
that handles that now. So we have, I don't, off the top of my head, have the number to facilities,
Right.
but all that information is available on the website.
Okay, great. I wish that the council would stop thinking of that RV park and tent thing as a moneymaker for the city. Before I moved here in 97, I believe, we went all through this, chapter and verse, fighting with the city about the same thing. And finally, the city got all the approvals from the Coastal Commission and everything to put it in, and the feds came in and stopped it. So you might want to check your history before you go all through it again. There's some endangered species living out there that the feds said, no, you can't have the tent campers and the RVs. So save yourself some time, maybe money. Secondly, just we used to have a beach festival. Is there some way to get it back that's revenue neutral? Have
We're
you
thinking
thought
about it. We're thinking about
Yeah,
it.
because the port contributes to the things to do in Port Hueneme, the POA, Police Officers Association, the Seabees, the Air Force. Surely to God, we can have something in our own city again. I mean, I have people from all over the county come and say, when's the beach festival? I said, no, we're not having it this year. Oh, blah, 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 blah. So they really liked it. So can you maybe put a pen to paper while you're thinking about it?
We understand, Valerie, and I think you've got 5 supporters here for reinvigorating that beach festival, but time being,
I understand.
not this year.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Diane?
I'm part of the Surfside 3 group. Anyway, we fought this, as was said, and it went down once before. I was horrified to see that anybody was proposing it. And also about the transient community, there was somebody passed out across from that lovely theater. Today, I looked and watched him to make sure he wasn't dead. He wasn't. And so there still are people in the area, and I just want to be adamant. Oh, the thing that also bothers me about some of this transient, I know there's a couple of lovely bathrooms. It's cleaned here. I appreciate what the police force has done and to help, but they don't bother to use the facility even if you tell them where it is. And I know LA is having a horrible hepatitis and tuberculosis problems and some other medical problems, and that creates health problems. So we want a healthy, safe community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Greg, that's all I got.
I was here to speak about the rumor also, and I've sort of been circumvented, but as long as I've sat here and waited, I'm going to speak about it. I think it's a bad idea. It would block the view. I live at Surfside 3. From our property, we can look right out to the dunes and see the ocean, and I don't really want to see a chromework flotilla of broken down RVs that when they leave, the tent city comes in, and then you never get rid of the tent city, and it's a problem you really probably don't have any backup plan with to deal with. So we should just put a nail in that little idea right here and now. Mr. Gama, when you ran for office, you said you were the beach guy, and that beach is the crown jewel in our, the jewel in our crown here. And it has to be protected, and I don't think we should have any kind of an RV park there. We don't need to pave anything over. We don't need any more fires, beer parties, loud noise. We got enough problems down there, so that's all I really wanted to say, is to just let you know I think it's a pretty lousy idea if it goes through, and you should kill it right now.
Thank you very much. Okay, Dulce. You're not supposed to do that. Dulce, Sutterfield, please.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Okay, so I also was drawn in to think there was something I really needed to comment on related to this RV park and all that. So I'm not here to say more because you've heard a lot, but I did submit a one-pager, which I encourage you to read because I think it goes into more than just, is this a rumor or not, or is this good or not? So please read, and I hope to be more involved with city activities or city topics in the future. And I want you to know that I didn't just jump in and think, oh, I have to react to something piecemeal, what is this? I actually have a degree in urban planning. I worked in that field. I used to work in local government long before my federal career. And so I first looked at the city website. I was trying to pair up, here's this Surfside 3 newsletter thing alerting us, and a neighbor had said something, and what does the city website say? So I kind of got stuck, but I thought, well, we better come to this meeting anyway. But what I did find was this strategic action plan summary, March 20th, 2017. The strategy only goes through last year, as far as I could tell. I tried to kind of get familiar with what things you're addressing. I assume it was well thought through. I hope it was well addressed, but we're approaching the tail end of 2019 now. So whether we're dealing with something that's like, is there going to be this issue around RV and tents and people from the encampment coming there, or whether it's something else, I look to see how does this tie in with a bigger, longer-term vision, strategy, all of that. And I had been learning about the draft general plan for the county and the coastal element, which wasn't updated, and trying to put all these pieces together with this whole encampments scenario. So I just want to mention that I don't even know if you're exactly the same council as when this was constructed, but if you want to put your strategy hats on and get something more going down this line that we can relate to, or if this is being abandoned, this isn't the approach for the future, I just think, whatever it is, I'd like to know that we're not just looking at obsolete history on the website, and I hope we can easily navigate to find things and maybe plug in and ask intelligent questions and not questions that are just rumor-driven.
I understand.
So,
Rod, can you address that issue?
well, we're not having the conversation though, right? So I'll sit
Give
down.
us a moment here.
Yeah, so the March 2017 Strategic Action Plan was approved by the previous City Council. I wouldn't say that we've abandoned it. A lot of the items are completed now, some are not, and there are some that we will probably continue to work on, even as we are now working on a brand new strategic plan that's going to be, I think, a lot more community driven. We're starting now with the city organization, the city council, but as it moves through the process, there will be opportunities for the community, residents, business owners, to be much more involved than they were during the development of that previous plan. So we're updating all of that. And again, there'll be some things that may be carried over from the 2017 plan, but a lot of that has been completed now. So yeah, we're in the process now, probably about 30 to 40% through the new plan, working with a very talented lady named Christine Grimm from Oak Park over near Thousand Oaks area, who works for both large corporate clients and government agencies literally all over the world, helping them with strategic planning and executive coaching and that whole world of trying to make organizations more effective. So we're kind of excited about We're not quite ready to unveil it all yet. A lot of the internal planning is going on, but it's going to be a good thing for us when it wraps up, probably end of this calendar year or first quarter of 2020.
Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. I only have one left, Tom, and that's you. Do you want to address us now or you want to wait? Tom King.
Is he here? Oh, there he is.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No time like the
council
present.
members, staff. I'm a member of Save the Port Hueneme Coast. We have a number of members here. Also, Friends of Ormond Beach are here. This is more an observation and something that the previous speaker just related to. City councils come and go, but sometimes issues such as the RV park, such as towers over at the area of Market and Surfside, reappear over time. What's impressive to me and worked very strongly for our group when we were opposing these towers is participation. People coming to the meetings. Often you'll see maybe 20 people here, maybe even less sometimes. There's more staff here than there are people. So one, I want to applaud all of you guys for this being an important idea. Yes, maybe it turned out to be a rumor, but as the lady just prior, again, these things have a way of reappearing. So our organization, along with Friends of Ormond Beach, and there's also another group from Oxnard called Savior's Road Design, are very active in terms of trying to protect the beach. So I would invite any of you that want to be more active to seek out these groups. The city council has changed, I certainly think, for the better. You do have quite a few people in the community that are active. And so, again, I invite you to maybe get involved, or as you are involved today, it's a good thing. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Tom. Okay, we are now ready to move on to our consent calendar agenda. And it's my turn to read all of the various items on our consent calendar. These are items that are not going to be presented in public, although it's all in here in the paper. So, first one would be to, number one is the minutes of the City Council regular meeting, July 15. Next, we want to take a vote on the finance cash disbursements for July the 6th, 2019 through August the 16th. You guys don't want to hear this? This is good stuff. This is good stuff. Don't go.
This is our typical meeting.
Yeah. Okay, and read by title only, the waiving full reading and adopt an ordinance approving an RV park over on the beach. No, I'm sorry.
It's not on the agenda.
I misspoke. I'm sorry. Read by title only, waiving full reading and adopt an ordinance approving development agreement number PHDA 857 Green Ocean Cannabis Cultivating Business 501 West Channel Islands Boulevard, Suites 207 and 208. The recommendation is waiving the full reading of the ordinance and adopt the proposed ordinance approving and adopting development agreement number PHDA 857 under Government Code Section 65864 to 65869.5 and ordinance number 727 and ordinance number 734 of the Port Hueneme Municipal Code relating to the operation of the cannabis facility for Green Ocean LLC. Next one is adopt a resolution amending the benefits and additional compensation for unrepresented executive management and professional employees. Next one is Community Services Officer Job Classification. Those are those two new officers we're going to have. They're not sworn officers, but they will, if there's an accident, fender bender, something that would normally pull a policeman off the beat, no more. We will have these community officers show up, conduct traffic, do what they need to do, take reports, while the policeman gets to stay on the beat. And we're hiring 2 of those. Thank you for a healthier budget. Agreement with ARC Document Solutions for scanning and archiving management services for Community Development Department, and adopt a resolution establishing application requirements, minimum qualifications for medicinal and non-medicinal cannabis, as well as procedures for periodic review of development agreements. The following resolution for that would be establishing application requirements, minimum qualifications, location criteria for medicinal and non-medicinal cannabis activity pursuant to Articles 3 and 10 of the Port Hueneme Municipal Code, and procedures for the annual review of development agreements pursuant to Government Code Section 65865.1. May I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, now we have a public hearing for the Annual Development Agreement Compliance Review. The hearing is now open. It is 7:56. Do any members of the council have any conflicts to disclose? Do any of you guys know any people too closely? Because I think we all know them, right? Okay. Madam Clerk, do you have proof of publication as required by law?
Yes, sir.
And do we have a complete file of reports and exhibits?
Yes, we do.
Okay. It's now time. Tony, you're on. Staff.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Good evening. And thank you to the applicants who came and have sat through here so far. So per our brand new resolution that you just approved in the consent calendar, we now have procedures in place for what I'm going to discuss here.
It's a good thing, huh?
Yes, exactly. It was kind of planned that way. You can thank Kevin for his assistance on that part of planning. So what we have here this evening is our first annual development agreement compliance review. This is something actually Councilmember Schnapp has been mentioning for a while as well. But this is actually required by state law for development agreements. And we are actually we were planning on looking at 4 of our dispensaries here. One of them we got some late information on, and so we need to continue to evaluate that. So we're asking to continue the one for Freedom First until our October 7th meeting. The other 3 dispensaries, however, have been in operation for over a year or close to a year now, and that is HPC, which is Hueneme Patient Consumer, up there on the top of the Hardy Mall building, as well as Safeport just down the street from them, and DBO, also known as From the Earth, which is over up on the building on 2675 North Ventura Road. So what we looked at in this staff report, and if you read it, it's a little bit repetitious because there's pretty much the same set of findings because all of our development agreements are pretty much the same for each of our cannabis businesses. And so we've got the same set of findings that need to be made, and so there's the same discussion for all of those. And in a nutshell, what we found was that one of our dispensaries, Safeport, is on track to be in full compliance with everything by their first anniversary, which is in October. And then the other 2, HPC and DBO/From the Earth, are just about in compliance, and they are working with Chief Salinas and I to get into compliance with the one item, which is the charitable contributions. When these first dispensaries were approved, little over a year ago, we didn't actually have in place that quote-unquote 1% that we now really seek from all of our dispensaries of their gross annual cannabis sales. And so at this point, they may not have been completely aware of that, and so they're working to get in compliance with that. And basically with that, we found that generally all of these dispensaries have been operating in compliance with the development agreements, and so therefore we have resolutions that we are recommending that the City Council approve basically agreeing with the fact that these dispensaries are in compliance with the development agreements. And so with that, what the staff is recommending is that the City Council adopt resolutions of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme determining that the following cannabis dispensaries are in compliance with their respective development agreements: Hueneme Patient Consumer, DBO Investments PH LLC, and Harbor Management Group LLC, which is also Safeport. It is further recommended that the City Council continue this hearing, however, to October 7th to take action on the resolution regarding the fourth dispensary, which is Freedom First Association. And with that, I believe we've got representatives from most, if not all, of the dispensaries here. If you do have questions of them, and I'm also available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope those representatives of the various dispensaries that may be here, that things are going well. And let us know when we can help, because we certainly are here to do just that. Any questions?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Mayor. Could each of those that are here representing the businesses, could you come up to the podium and just introduce yourselves? Because I think maybe one has changed a little bit, but yeah, thanks. I think that's you folks. Yeah.
Yeah, I got rid of a few people.
And your name?
I'm Beth Thuna with HBC.
Okay, good, all right.
Marcus Thuna, I'm the defense consultant.
Okay, all right, thanks. Yeah, brother.
And Nancy Jarvis from Safeport.
Nancy, okay.
Lonnie Jarvis from Safeport.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Susan Miller, DBL from the Earth.
Okay, all right,
Good.
thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
For
Yeah.
your time.
Yeah.
Any other questions by the council for staff?
So,
Yes.
yeah. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Tony, for this process that we're all going through to learn and to abide by and, make sure that things are being followed, especially because there's a permit in place and all of that. So I appreciate your hard work and the work through a couple of our consultants to make sure we get to this step. This would be an ongoing thing on an annual basis. And so you're asking us then to approve 2 and then a possible 3rd in October, or do you want us to wait till October for all 3?
It would actually be 3 this evening, and you may actually approve those 3 this evening if it's your desire. And then the 4th would be in October.
Okay.
And also, just want to keep in mind that this was all came about with the 4 of them this evening, just based on the fact that we are a little bit behind schedule on the first couple of them, and coming up on the next couple. But this time next year, we probably won't have all 4 at once because we'll have separated them out a little bit, and we actually have 2 others that we still need to also report on. So these will be coming to you periodically through the year, and then from every year on.
Okay.
I have a question.
So I haven't finished, but.
Go ahead.
All right. So with that,
Write
just.
my question down.
With that, I want to thank then those that represent these organizations for your diligence and following through just the, different criteria and making sure that we get to this timeline of a year to report out and provide everything that we've been asking for and to be in compliance with everything that is being asked of you. And we really appreciate your due diligence on all of that. Thanks.
Any other questions? Rich?
Maybe just for clarification, but the 1% that each of the different groups give to community programs and stuff like that, what are the guidelines for that? Are they pretty much at the will of the particular groups donating it? Is there some kind of a process that they go through as far as deciding what groups they're going to give the 1% to? Or is it kind of like a whoever can get to them first type of situation?
Well, it's kind of sort of actually all of the above, but where it starts is that as part of their certificate of approval process, which is what they need to obtain before they can get the conditional use permit and development agreement from you, is that they provide us a community benefits program. And we work with them, if it comes in just very generically, we work with them and give them more guidance where we are looking at groups that would actually have a direct impact and benefit to the city of Port Hueneme. And then second to that would be like a county-wide type facility. For instance, the Oxnard homeless shelter is a great example of one that benefits not only the city but also the entire region, basically. And that's one that's been heavily donated to by several of our dispensaries at this point. But they also often donate to the Police Explorers. REACH is another big-time recipient. The Boys and Girls Club, basically via REACH and whatnot. And so we work with them. If they don't know exactly or have a really good idea of what they should be donating to, staff, myself, Chief Salinas, Mr. Butler, Steve Kinney, we do give them guidance to get basically focused on a program.
So are they encouraged to donate to locally based funds, groups and organizations that directly benefit, say, the city of Port Hueneme and the immediate area, or are they allowed to give it to, say, a national organization or a statewide organization, that, or do they have that option?
Technically they could, but we generally, again, encourage them to keep it local. If it is a national organization, hopefully it's one that, again, is also working here in the community.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have one. As we have numerous dispensaries, as they come online, there'd be different times of the year when we would be doing the review. Is it allowed within the ordinance for us to change that, maybe consolidate them all at the same time of the year, the same month? Would that be a good idea, bad idea? Or?
I would love that because it would mean fewer trips up here.
Yeah.
However, the ordinance and actually the law requires that it basically be within a year. So what I'm going to try to do, because they do vary from literally January through October as
Right.
opening dates, and so that is a wide area basically. But I will try to combine them as best as I can to reduce the number of times that we're discussing this.
Just an idea. Any other comments or questions from the council? Any comments or questions from anybody in the audience at this time? Anybody like to address the council on this matter? Good. Then if we have no further comments, no further discussion, we will close the public hearing, and the time is 8:07. So, seeing none, without objection, we will close the public hearing, time being, I said the time. We have before us a recommendation to, 1, adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, California, determining that the cannabis dispensary operated by Hueneme Patient Consumer, DBA HPC, is in compliance with the development agreements approved for the operation of said dispensary. 2, adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, California, determining that the cannabis dispensary operated by DBO Investments, PHLLC DBA From the Earth, is in compliance with the development agreements approved for the operation of said dispensary. 3, adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, California, determining that the cannabis dispensary operator by Harbor Management Group LLC DBA Safeport is in compliance with the development agreements approved for the operation of said dispensary. And finally, we will continue the public hearing to the October 7th, 2019 City Council meeting to take action on the resolution regarding the Freedom One Association Skunk Masters Dispensary. May I have a motion and a second?
Make a motion to approve that.
I'll second that.
And we have motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Did somebody open the window? Now I feel the ocean coming in. I can feel the marine layer happening here. What do you think we moved to a beach city for? Okay, we are now on to City Council business items. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, tonight we wanted to give you a quick update on our 2 new citizen advisory bodies, and those are the Citizen Advisory Commission and the Transactions and Use Tax Citizens Oversight Committee, or our Measure U Committee. Just one update, first of all, and that is that they have, most of these new members of the commissions went through their AB 1234 training and their Brown Act training back on July 30th. New city clerk was very involved along with, in fact, I think Kevin, who's here tonight, did the training that day. So we had a great turnout. We did have a couple of members of the advisory commission who could not participate that day, and I may ask you to nag. One was Larry Downing, the other was Eric Ford.
It's Eric
Is that correct?
Ford, yeah.
Yeah, and they were very good about it. They let us know in advance that they couldn't make it. They had conflicts, so we appreciate that. But we do need to get them booked and completed through that training before we can have our first advisory commission meeting. And I know we want to get that moving. So city clerk's going to work on that. If you can help us, maybe take direction from the clerk on a little reminder email to Larry and to Eric, that'll help us so we can move forward. The Measure U Oversight Committee, I'm anticipating first meeting probably in November, late October, early November. Their first 2 meetings will be really educational in nature. We'll be updating them on how the sales tax works in California, how local sales tax measures are passed, the revenue trends in Port Hueneme, what we told the voters when we went to them and took the Measure U campaign to the voters. So a lot of education during those first couple meetings. And I'm thinking probably, again, late October, early November, and then one in the first quarter of 2020. Then they'll move into more of their advisory role as they get into the spring of 2020, where they'll actually be beginning to look at how we allocate Measure U money for the second year of the 2-year budget. And they'll be advising the council on that. So we're getting close with that group. And I'm working on scheduling a presentation, we hope, from HDL, the HDL companies, which is our sales tax tracking and management consulting firm, for that first meeting, having someone come out, a guru on sales tax, to really, again, get those new members up to speed on the whole process of what Measure U is all about and how sales tax works in California. Then the Community Advisory Commission, and I notice we have at least one Measure U committee member back joining us tonight, Don in the back row there. I think Mr. Scrivener had to leave, but he is also on the Measure U committee. I know we have at least 2 Advisory Commission members here, Mr. Stephen Auclair, and then Tom Dunn disappeared for now. Oh, there he is. All right. We may have had a couple more at some point in the evening. The remaining 3 there would be Becky Bruning, Donna Breeze, and Eric Ford, right? So we hope to get that one moving quickly, but tonight I wanted to talk to the council about some assignments for that advisory commission. I came up with a few things that they could get started on, but I don't want to get them moving on that without having the council weigh in on maybe ideas that you have for some of their initial assignments. So on page 2 of the staff report that I put together, I suggested that they could conduct public outreach and collect public input on the planned upgrading of the Orvine Carpenter Community Center and other aspects of the Hueneme at 75 capital improvement campaign. So as we start to really move forward on that major capital funding, capital improvement campaign called Hueneme at 75, looking forward to the 75th anniversary of the city in 2023, this group, I think, could be really helpful in conducting some of the initial public outreach and, again, collecting public input on those projects, specifically to start with what the community would like to see at the Orvine Carpenter Community Center and what the residents are looking for on that project. Mr. Gum?
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Speaking for myself, I don't hear the public coming out and talking about the poor shape of the community center. In fact, I think it's in really good shape. Yes, there's things that could be done better. However, I do hear and see Miranda Park issues, and we seemingly don't have that on a track to be upgraded or dealt with.
3.
So as we do the capital improvement budget, and that'll be in front of you possibly as soon as the 16th, the next meeting, you'll see funding allocated for Miranda Park. And in some ways, you've already approved funding, the cameras, the tennis courts, the basketball courts, those things that have been done. And there's no reason that this commission could not also gather input, collect, or do public outreach regarding Miranda.
One of the things that I've been struggling with is how do we regain control of Miranda Park? Because it seems not to be in our control when it comes to some of the activities going on there. So, I do understand that the community center is important, but I also, and I'm on little shaky ground here because I live so close to Miranda Park. I can't vote on anything that's going to improve the park, or I'll get myself in trouble. So, again, it's just what's going on there is it's not good, and it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anybody is unaware along the council here of what's going on in Miranda Park. I'm not sure we have the exact right answer at the right time, but we're certainly aware that this is something that needs to have our attention. To have another committee tell us that this is something that needs our attention, it might be redundant. We know. Now we got to come up with a plan of attack, if you will. It needs still more improvements. We've talked about the cameras that apparently are not yet up and running. So, and the community has reminded us of that. We were switching out the lights to have the LED lighting, and that's still in progress, I assume. Not yet finished, but almost there. We're getting there. We need to re-turf the whole park, and I'm working on my own little plan on how maybe we might be able to accomplish that. But the more we can get the community to use it, the more it might solve other problems that would require perhaps more police activity. Always having to call the police department every time we have a problem, rather than the community being able to solve it from within. See what we can do, but it's just an idea. Councilmember Rollins?
I wouldn't want to necessarily define initially what we feel is a priority, say the Irving Carpenter Center or something like that. I would prefer that we address both the parks and the beaches and have it come from them as to, well, first of all, we only have a limited amount of funds. It's not like we have funds to do everything that we ever wanted to do. And we also are going to need to work within a budget. And I would feel that this advisory group could give us advice as to what the true priorities are of the community. It may be turfing. I mean, I'm a Parks and Recreation person. Obviously, I have my priorities. But like, as a whole community, you may have different priorities as to whether it's the community center, more policing, improving the recreational facilities at Miranda Park, or, we haven't talked about we have other parks like Bulker Park and the Bubbling Spring Parks, where those community, and I would hope that this advisory group can kind of look at all these different avenues as far as what the priorities might be, and then that staff, once that is, begin to develop a dollar figure as to what this might be, and then we refine out what those priorities are when we're having the council discussion.
Councilmember Schnapp.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know that the city manager hasn't finished his list yet, but I actually do see in item number 3 regarding the new Parks Master Plan project is that's really where some of these issues could be parked, so to speak. You can, focus in on Miranda and focus in on these assets that we have, including Hueneme Beach, because that is a park.
Exactly.
And using that as the overall theme versus just, one park or two, right?
Yeah, that's perfect. It really ties into what Councilmember Rollins was saying, and we have some proposals that came in recently, I think 6 in total, from firms to help us on that Parks Master Plan project. Part of that is looking at all the parks, so not just Miranda, but the others that we have in the city system, and looking at the city-owned parcels, especially in the beach area, and what is going to be acceptable and desirable for the community in terms of development or non-development of those city-owned parcels. So it's a pretty wide-ranging project, and we think that the Advisory Commission could be an important part of that, working with the consulting team, the city staff, maybe even helping design the public input sessions for all that. So yeah, that's my number 3 on my list.
Yeah. Councilmember Gama.
I guess what strikes me a little bit is that it seems that it's already determined that the Orving Carpenter Community Center is going to get all these upgrades, and speaking for myself, it appears to me that that is in the best shape of all of the areas that we're talking about. So in my view, it's like it shouldn't be on the top of the priority because it seems to be in really good shape when compared to the others. So right off that's where I'm coming from. It's like, how do we prioritize, who needs the most work now? And I'm not discounting the fact that the community center has a need for, I think, air conditioning is one of the things on the list. But, I don't have air conditioning in my house. I mean, but I just wonder, if you look at Miranda Park, I mean, the field is a mess. There's dead trees. There's a lot of problems there that need to be addressed. And so I'm just wondering, how do we prioritize all 4 parks with equal an equal standard of priority, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I'd like to respond a little bit to that. In conversations with the city manager and with other council members, one of my concerns is that we want to set the advisory commission up initially for success. Right. Their first couple of items that they're going to go after, I want them to succeed, with aces. As it gets more difficult, they'll have something to fall back on to help them get them through more difficult times. Perhaps if they did a study of the Orving Carpenter Community Center and identified, in their opinion, or what they're learning from staff, what they might need. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not real sure, but I think I just triggered a comment from Mayor Pro Tem.
You can go first.
Okay. So just for clarification, I don't believe this is a discussion on which projects are a priority for us, because all these projects, I believe, have been approved, right?
Yeah.
And it's not an either-or situation.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, they could conceivably be working on all these things, at the same time.
Right, but we've already approved the go-ahead on improvement of the community center.
I'm not sure, maybe I've missed it. We haven't established a dollar figure. That was part of a total presentation that was brought to us for Hueneme 75, and it listed that as one of them, but it listed a whole lot of it, and it was kind of a general concept as to improving the community in general. And I didn't hear that we approved any specific project along the way. We might have, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think you're right that until we get the CIP budget really approved and finalized and presented in detail, what you're saying is accurate. There wasn't a specific dollar amount pledged to Miranda Park or to the community center or any other one project. We gave some large lump sum allocations to the CIP program, but with the understanding we would come back to talk about the detail with you.
I guess just one little follow-up, and it's been a kind of a concern of mine. Because the Citizen Advisory Board in its nature is very generic and can cover a vast amount of areas, like within the city, that we have needs for, I think it's good of us to sort of maybe focus on one particular area for them to be working on, because there's there's everything from, we've talked about safety on streets, we've talked about capital improvement projects, development things, just a wide realm, even within a small city, as to things that we can get them away, and as opposed to them going all different ways. What Mr. Berg said, right, we want them to be successful. And I would say the capital improvement parks, beaches, I would like to see that as a priority that they would first work on.
Councilmember Schnapp?
Yes, thank you. So, I really think that we can additionally strive at a higher level for these items and maybe not be so focused on some of the specific kind of goals. But like the first one, I might just suggest that we change, could they receive some community input on the whole Hueneme at 75, our 75th anniversary, right? And so part of that would be then this, the buildings capital improvement and or other plans that would go along with tying that in, right? And then and I believe that this group could really help us with town hall meetings. So, I'm totally in support of that, to elicit the community's input and response. And then, with the Parks Master Plan, I believe that it's just overall and really taking a look at helping us prioritize and, what are those items that we have on the docket and what are some of the other items that people may want to see. Perhaps maybe even one of the parks or several of them could have charging stations for, all the folks that have electricity that would be in line and working in some of the lighting situation and that whole scenario that we were going through and trying to identify, our plans for that. And certainly with the community and the interest of what's happened with this transient situation and what the chief had reported, I think that this Citizens Advisory Committee could possibly even look into that, maybe it's helping us develop solutions or at least communicating out to the community, hey, these are some of the tools you have in your toolbox that each of us can use, and these are some of the resources that we have, and really keeping that whole discussion kind of alive and healthy, but also taking a look at this collaborative approach that we've started with the City of Oxnard and other organizations that are doing some work at the estuary. So, I believe that we could introduce that as well.
Mayor Pro Tem?
So I appreciate all the comments from my fellow council members on the dais here. I think they're all good comments, and I like the idea of giving the commission an opportunity to select from a wide list, because I think the list now has grown a little bit, of projects. And we have an opportunity now to use this strategic planning process that we're in to help them arrive at the best project that's going to ensure them the best success, the best chance at success. So I would like this group to work with the strategic planning group when the time is right, to bring them on board and have them look at a longer list perhaps of possible projects, and maybe even come up with some of their own that they would suggest would answer some of the needs of the city and the community.
Sounds good. Councilmember Rollins.
This is a very small group, and it has a very big task at hand. And one of the thoughts that has come up earlier in the thing is that we would like to get involved in the community if given an opportunity to that. So I would encourage the City Advisory Board, regardless of what particular project, we narrow it down to our projects, that they perhaps develop subcommittees, develop various different groups of the public in general to give input, so that we're not operating in a vacuum, they're not operating in a vacuum. And so we really begin to get a true feel. It's a small enough community. I mean, I know just in my short time, we get a lot of really good ideas and stuff like that. It's just a matter of reaching out. I know we are thinking outside the box.
Steve, was he looking at me?
But in any case, I would.
The buck stopped there.
I would encourage, this Citizen Advisory Board to then in turn reach out to develop subcommittees and things like that to work on these projects, so that they can really come up the true meaning of what the community wants to have.
I think we need to take, I like the idea. I think subcommittees can work, but I think we aren't there yet. We still haven't formed the commission yet. So I don't want to scare them off by looking too far ahead. I think there's a lot of ideas out there. I know that Rod hasn't even finished going through his list before we jumped in. But when you're done, Rod, I do have some additional ideas I'd like to add to the list. But again, I can't emphasize enough that we have the opportunity through the strategic planning process to help guide them and provide a framework for identifying what might be the best project, and we should utilize it.
Okay, any other comments? Rod, would you like to
Yeah,
summarize what you
I think
you
we've
heard?
I think we've talked about almost all 4 on my list. Now, I did talk about maybe developing a format for a twice yearly town hall meeting, which could be both in person and online. A lot of people in cities now are really moving toward creative ways for people to give their opinions online rather than coming to an in-person meeting. So we could do both, just to solicit citizen input on a wide variety of community issues and concerns. So there's nothing magical about twice a year. It could be quarterly, it could be once a year, but again, the whole concept of having this commission help us understand how to connect to our residents in an effective way. And then last thing I think we haven't talked about yet is just my number 4, if there are any leftover projects from the 2017 Strategic Action Plan that we decide are going to be included in the new updated strategic plan, there might be ways for the commission to assist us with getting those completed. So that was my list, but I've already jotted down some of the suggestions from the council. And like I say, I don't think.
I have 2 additional ones.
Sure.
Okay. So the ideas I have, I've heard via email by several residents that we can do a better job in communicating with our residents about the goings-on in our community. We don't have a local newspaper, but we have some great volunteers who have helped capture discussions here at the city council meetings and announce other events that are going on. But it's via email. We don't have a paper kind of newspaper to help inform the public. So that's a challenge that maybe this commission could help us resolve. I mean, how can we better communicate with our residents so we keep everybody informed? I would also like to have our community consider bringing back Neighborhood Watch. And I'd like to get the pulse of the community on where they are with participating in Neighborhood Watch. It's been around for a long time, and we haven't had a Neighborhood Watch program in a couple of years. I know it requires some coordination on the part of the police department, but where are we in our community in terms of having an interest in developing the Neighborhood Watch program?
Sure. I mean, and even if we could have a drive to just get everybody in the community to simply lock their cars at night.
Maybe there's a campaign, right?
We could solve a lot of problems, but how do we get them to do it?
Right. How do we communicate with them?
So my initial thought is to ensure success, and perhaps we could assign one item out of the gate and ask the commission to work on whatever item it is we select. And then when they complete that item, then task them with another item. I'm just a little concerned that if we throw 6 items at them right off the bat, that we might not get anything accomplished. And if we could help them to be focused on one at a time, maybe it'll make this new endeavor become a way of doing business in the city that we're comfortable with. And
yeah, I agree. But so how do we come to that list? So
Yeah.
You've got even tougher job now, huh?
Yeah.
So
do you want to? Are you suggesting the council picks that one tonight, or is it kind of putting it back to staff to make that determination, and we'll run with it?
I don't think we should pick it tonight. I think staff should, after having heard us, maybe prioritize, okay, what is our greatest need from the commission at this point? And then, not guarantee success on it, because, we want them to come back with good work, and we want to be able to support their work. And so I just feel like if we limit it in scope to a high priority item, and me, myself, I look at number 4 and I'm thinking, well, that might be the one. And I'm not suggesting it is, but because we're in this strategic planning right now, and we have that residual plan from 2017 hanging out there, how do we bring those two concepts together, and how do we, embark on our new strategic plan?
I again, don't know that we're ready to give this group a specific project. I think one of the other steps, aside from looking at it strategically and deciding, what's feasible, you need to look at the capacity of this group to do any one of these projects. What talents are they bringing to the table? What capacity do they have for instance, report writing, issuing surveys? Where is their interest level? And if we're asking them to do this, how are we going to support them? So there's, I think, some questions we have to ask before we're even ready to give them an assignment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would suggest to our city manager that he work with his team and come up with maybe a shorter list of all these recommendations that we're offering, and then from there we can probably decide and move forward.
Well, I don't recommend that at all. I disagree with that. I think it needs to be part of the strategic planning process. And if that's part of calling the staff together and asking them for their input, then maybe that could be the wider list that we give to the group to strategically work with Chris and narrow it down to what they can feasibly accomplish.
But I'm thinking that we're going to lose a little bit of time here, because the strategic plan is, what I heard today, is that it won't be done till like March of 2020?
We're aiming for end of the calendar year, but it could spill over into the first quarter of.
Right, but in the meantime, to get there, we have to include the members of the commission early on to get their input.
And I strongly agree with that, but we can still give them.
I hear you on that. I don't disagree, but I'm just voicing my opinion is that we've recruited them. It's taken a long time to get to this point, and I don't think we should wait, but we could possibly do something in the midst of everything,
And I don't think we should wait either. And right now, we're waiting for 2 members to go through the training. So we're already being held up by that, and who knows how long that'll take to get them trained. And then they have to meet and figure out their own organization. So that's going to be one meeting, and then tell us, what they're capable of doing. So there's some things that they can be doing in the meantime
So I think
while they wait for us to bring them into the strategic planning process.
So what I think I hear is we want them involved in the strategic planning process, but we also want them to take on a project or two that, I hope you can help summarize what projects might be available, and then I don't think we're ready to vote on anything right now, though.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is that they have to select a chairperson, maybe a vice chairperson, a secretary. They might even have to develop some bylaws. So they got some organizational responsibilities that they're going to have to fulfill in order to function. So I think that's a good start right there.
Right,
and
have them work on that.
That's quite a project in itself.
Okay, Steve?
City Attorney, do you have any input that might assist us in how to get them started in the most efficient manner?
Not offhand. Essentially, it's simply council direction as to what this council would like to see from both the Citizens Advisory Committee as well as Measure U input. My understanding when Measure U's Citizen Oversight Committee was created, the goal of that Oversight Committee was to make recommendations to this council as to how the projected revenue should be spent. I know that this is primarily focused on the Citizens Advisory Committee. It seems to me that my understanding of these boards was that they would be providing this council with recommendations as to what projects they would like to see done, not so much the other way around, that this council would be providing projects for these committees. And so I don't know if my understanding was incorrect, but it seems to me that
Yeah, it's incorrect.
it's incorrect.
Yeah,
It's incorrect.
That's okay, though.
That's
okay.
Okay, Rod, do you have enough?
Yeah, I think City Clerk
I'd like
wanted
to
to
make
say.
just one clarification for the record, just so that we don't offend Mr. Downing or Eric Ford. They are aware that they need to complete those trainings, so you don't need to hound them. I'm going to work with the city attorney's office to schedule those training opportunities for them. So I just wanted to clarify for the record, so that if they're listening, they've been in touch and they're aware.
Yeah, Eric is probably listening.
Yes. Okay, so I think we are where we are.
Yeah, I've got some good input, and we'll focus on getting those last two individuals trained, and then we will probably have an initial meeting to talk about the organizational issues. And we will also, I'll be talking, I was mentioning to Mayor Pro Tem Hernandez earlier, Chris Scrim, strategic planning consultant, will be here in person tomorrow, doing one of our follow-up interviews with one of our stakeholders. So I will talk to her during that time about the best way and the best timing for incorporating the commission into the plan. So I think we've got some steps to follow now.
Okay, anything else? Any other comments? Okay.
I do have one more comment. I think
Sure.
as part of the strategic planning process, there's going to be an October 1 meeting. So
Yeah, I just don't want to,
we don't know what that's going to really look like or who's going to be part of that. But the strategic planning process is providing opportunities for our commission to get involved. I don't know if October 1st will be it,
Yeah,
but
that's I just don't want to jump in and
Yeah.
invite all the commissioners to that without talking to Chris, because she has a
No, no.
very
Okay.
strong opinion about the way the process should go.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to the city attorney's monthly update regarding Southeastern Port Hueneme.
Thank you, Mayor Berg, city council members. My current understanding regarding this, from our last update, we had Dr. Bromber here, and we had talked about the Hueneme Foundation's placement of 5 sensors in order to get accurate readouts as to the gases that we're seeing and whatnot in southeast Hueneme. My understanding and my update from Dr. Bromber is from July 14, and so one of the sensors, the 5th sensor that's supposed to be located south of the New Indy plant, it was required, or the prime location for it was on private property. There have been issues securing that site because of a private property owner. And so currently I am not aware whether or not that 5th sensor has been installed yet. So I think we're still left with the anecdotal evidence that Dr. Bromberg provided this council last meeting, which he is seeing spikes of ammonia. He is seeing increased nitrogen oxide emissions and things of that nature. In Dr. Bromberg's email from July 14th, he states that there's a constant surge of ammonia in the area. It definitely contributes to bad odors, but is not exceeding regulatory requirements. In addition, he says there's no significant levels of H2S, which is that rotten egg smell that people have complained about. And so until we have the sensor arrays out and calibrated and fully functional, it's impossible to know exactly what the levels we're seeing in parts per million and whether or not anything is potentially harmful.
And we don't know what the progress is on the 5th sensor array?
Offhand, I do not know. I have not spoken to Dr. Bromber. If the council would want to talk to Mr. Dunn about that, I'm not sure if he has any additional information that I do not.
Anything of value, Tom?
Not really. We have to wait for the numbers.
Okay. Thank you. Sylvia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Kevin, for your report. I'd have to say it was a couple of weeks ago, and I notified our city manager. One night there was this horrendous screeching noise.
Yeah.
That was really bad, and it almost seemed like it was never going to end. And it seemed like it was metal on metal, and it was awful. And I know that many of my neighbors on next door posted about it, and we were trying to figure out what it was, who was making it. Was it somebody pulling wheelies down on, the beach parking lot, or was it something that was more serious than that? And so it ended up being that there was some conversations going around, and I think somebody had pointed to that they were cleaning out one of the pipes over at the Indy plant, and it was after hours. And so I think the answer was to get it over to code enforcement to then make sure that somebody goes and reports to them and says, hey, you can't continue this noise, right? Mr. Dunn, do you want to come up and talk about that? Because if you're on the microphone, people can hear you and all. So that was my concern, and I know we put a kibosh to it, but these are like neighbors of our neighbors, and it really defeats the purpose of being a good corporate citizen in a community when you have that kind of noise going on after hours. It was already dark. I think it was closer to like 9:30 or so at night.
Right, and following Mr. Dunn's announcement and whatnot, I do have a number of hotlines to call. One of them includes a New Indy complaint. Apparently, New Indy has agreed to accept telephone complaints. I don't know.
When did they agree to do that?
Because
they quit doing it quite a while ago.
Did they? Okay, because I know that Ventura Pollution Control District recently provided that information out to.
Well, that's because they have quit taking phone calls from our people, and so has the noise pollution people. I know a number of people from Surfside 3 and others, like you mentioned, have called and said they get no response anymore, and the air pollution board will not take any more calls. It's getting worse. The incidences are getting stronger, and it's been going on for a year. The city will not you guys, Oxnard will not address it. The waste management plant is doing much better since they started treating upstream. The water, once it gets down here, 50% better than it was. It's the New Indy plant. It's a private corporation, and the city of Oxnard does not seem to have, for whatever reason, they have a lot of issues to want to go after that when it is cruelly affecting the life quality of Port Hueneme residents.
One idea would be, do they, outside of code enforcement, do they need a letter coming from the city saying, we heard that there was these noises, and, we're asking that you abide by these kind of codes because you're affecting our community. So I don't know if that could be something that is issued that maybe this council wants to
A letter
take
certainly
on?
could. One of the concerns that arises is that this city has no regulatory authority over New Indy or over the wastewater treatment plant. They're extra jurisdictional. A letter could certainly voice the residents' concerns and whatnot, but it wouldn't really have much teeth.
It sounds like we may need to bring in some alternate ways of communicating, because it sounds like they've cut off then our residents being able to then complain, because maybe they're up to here with the complaints, but we're still seeing the effect of it. And I also want to mention that as I was coming back from Camarillo, visiting my kids on, I think it was Sunday, there were 3 really big water hoses going. And I couldn't see where it didn't. So I was driving, westbound on Hueneme Road, and I was approaching the Great program, and then behind it is the Indy program, and then across the street is our, water plant, right? And so there was 3 big hoses, but I couldn't see fire department trucks. But I tell you what, they were like those really big hoses spraying water into some field over there. Was there a fire?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, something's going on back there, and I know that our residents are being affected by it, and I'm kind of concerned that, maybe they're behind a gate, nobody wants to pay attention to us, nobody wants to listen, but something's going on back there, and I think we need to be concerned.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I support the idea of sending a letter. I think we have to do everything we can and put them on notice, and at least be able to document that we've submitted letters. I think it's an important piece of this whole process, to express our dissatisfaction with them being bad neighbors and what they're doing to our residents, and
the city might look into sourcing out, and maybe you guys can do it, Kevin, is a environmental law firm, just to
Well,
talk
I
to
think
them
we
and
need to
see what
start-
options we have.
Yeah, I think we need to start with at least a letter, despite not having the regulatory authority, we can express our dissatisfaction.
If I may, Mayor Berg, I was at a function at the VFW one Friday night, and the Pack Foundry, is it the plastic manufacturer in the city of Port Hueneme?
On Surfside Drive.
A horrific smell came out of that place, and I guess the janitor at the VFW, I said, "Holy smoke, what is that?" "Oh, that's a plastic factory. They're burning plastics right now. That happens about once a month." And I'm telling you, that was a super significant, very strong odor, and kind of occurred to me, and I think I mentioned it to somebody, but I mentioned it again. It's like, wow, I wonder if this is being confused with New Indy and or the wastewater treatment plant. So before we start sending letters out, I think we need to make sure that this manufacturer within our city limits is up to speed and code.
That plant is next to Surfside 3, if I'm correct.
Correct.
And so the prevailing wind sort of blows it away from Surfside 3. Not saying they can't smell it, but it is a Port Hueneme company. So that would be a place to start on your own. And yes, a letter to Oxnard about their private plant there, should be initiated, and find out what options do we have. Because the people down there, and I don't, probably you do read next door, and whoever, you see the letters that are coming on there now. The people are just so pissed about what they're living under.
Is there corporate headquarters we could send that to as well?
Isn't it the Kraft Company? Mr. Kraft.
Rich?
Yeah, I would just like to reinforce Councilman Hernandez's request to do a letter. I think, at least we're putting them on notice. It may not have any teeth. I'm sorry, Miss.
And she supported it.
Okay, let me rephrase that.
I'll take my hair blonde.
Councilperson Schnapps, and then Councilperson Hernandez agreement to it, and now I have also agreed. I want to give credit for a good idea, and that we should follow through with that.
Good. Any other comments, questions?
I do have a question. Councilmember Gama mentioned that there was a fire, because I saw like 3 large hoses watering something down. There was a fire, and so were we even notified of something like that?
When was this?
This was Sunday. This was Sunday, and it was in the afternoon, and I couldn't see any smoke, but you could see the hoses going, and you could see kind of like gray smoke.
2 or 3 weekends ago, I was out on the dunes with a couple people, and there were a couple of fires just back over in that general direction. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was something trashy or grass or something over there. So there's been 2 or 3 fires over in that general area.
I don't have my phone with me right here tonight, but either Sunday or Monday, Chief Monday, who was here earlier, texted the chief and me about a small brush fire that was over in the area. Was it Perkins?
Yeah.
On Perkins Road. So that's probably exactly what you saw.
But
they
yeah.
got control of it quickly, and he said, no injuries, no structure damage. So yeah, he did text us about that, and I guess it was not severe enough that.
It didn't get reported, or did it?
Well, they got a call to go and respond. I didn't. Yeah.
So where was it? Was it at the plastics plant, the Indian
No, I think
plant,
it was
the
just on a
Oxnard? It wasn't
vacant
on-
lot, like a brush fire. Is what
Was
I-
it a vacant
okay.
lot?
So-
It wasn't
Okay.
on the street, though.
Any other comments, questions?
So do you have a
I think he's gonna
support for
send
the
the letter.
letter?
Yeah, we'll do the letter to Oxnard.
Okay.
We'll go, Alex Nguyen, city manager, and Kevin and I will work on that together.
Okay, what about the
It's
plants?
it's a letter
Yeah.
to the plant.
That's what I heard, a letter to the plant. whether
Oh,
it be-
actually, to New England Patriots man himself. Okay,
That's what I was
And
thinking.
CC the media on that.
yeah. He may be at a massage parlor in Florida, but no, we'll try to get it.
No, but certainly keeping the city manager of Oxnard in the loop
Yeah.
on
Yes,
that, so maybe a
CC,
CC for him.
Sure.
That would be great, thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Then that concludes the report.
That does conclude my report.
Okay. Now we move on.
Surfside 3 may have a history of letters addressed to that company for smells that have come in past years. So you may find a ready collection of evidence in the past.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Council members' reports, comments, and requests for future agenda items. First of all, I'm at the top of this list, and obviously since August, in August we had no meetings, but tomorrow we start again. I'll be at the Gold Coast Transit Commission meeting, and we are meeting at our new location now, which is right behind Costco. And then on Thursday, I'll be down in Los Angeles, right downtown on 7th Street for the SCAG Transportation Committee meeting, and then on Friday, the Ventura County Transportation Commission meets. So we're back in business again. It's September. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, having worked in the Santa Barbara County EOC over the last 2 days, I was so impressed with the organization. They are a very well-oiled machine, and primarily because they've had a number of disasters that they've had to deal with, and that's how they got that way. But it makes me wonder about our city and how ready we are organizationally to respond to a major disaster. We're fortunate enough that we haven't had a lot occur in the city, and we don't have any real major threats, but it only takes one to really put us into a situation that will take a long time for us to recover from. So I would like to ask either that this be an agenda item or that the city manager request a meeting of the Disaster Council, which is on part of our ordinance, that they meet this month, September being National Preparedness Month, at least have a meeting, Don Villafana and Chief Salinas and Finance and City Manager and maybe the mayor and
Strongly
myself,
agree.
to sit down and let's go through a checklist of things that we need to do to be better prepared as a city.
Great idea.
Just to mention, though, is that the last time we struck up the EOC here was when we had the tsunami warning of 2011, and I was mayor then. And so it was where effectively it came on that morning, and our city manager was on point for it at that time, and, you know, everything was check off the box, let's do what our plan says, and it worked out well.
That's awesome.
And
That's
that
good to
was,
hear.
but that was a couple years back, right? So I agree that, you know, something should take place here soon.
We were much younger then.
I was much younger then. I was a kid.
Councilmember Gama?
Thank you, Mayor Berg. First and foremost, in regards to the transient and homeless issue, I want to say the residents of Port Hueneme are very generous, and there's a couple of homeless persons in our community that have been in our community for well over 20 years. And I was so grateful the other day to find out that one of the Surfside 4 residents gifted a really nice car to John and Tiger. And the other lady, Jeanette, it's a lady that if I don't see her in the morning, I feel like something's wrong. And so when I see her in the morning, I know she's okay. And a resident whom has since passed away a number of years ago took it upon himself to get this lady hooked up with Social Security so she could, you know, have some subsistence. And that's who we are. We take care of people, and just want everyone to know that we are generous and we look after those that need to be looked after. And I'm very proud to know that people in our community step up. Secondly, I just wanted to take the time to say currently our budget is balanced and we have a surplus, and we're extremely grateful for the leadership that Mr. Butler has provided over the last couple of years. You know, he came into this city at a very difficult time, and amidst acrimony and hostility somehow, and a very short staff, he was able to get us to where we wanted to be, and that is with a balanced budget and a slight surplus. Looking forward, we're going to have to work really hard to be able to grow our revenues and afford the future as it comes. In March of 2017, Ventura County Star did a story on pension liability, and it was stated in that article that it's estimated that we're going to see our pension liability go up over $1.5 million in the next short 3 years. So again, we're in a very good position, but we need to be looking ahead as we move forward. Third thing I want to bring up is that I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Laura Hernandez for helping me organize a regional meeting with Beacon, and that meeting is going to take place this Friday. And one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to get everybody to agree on what the problem is with regards to our beach and sand and erosion and dredging. And I think we've come to that point, and our first step in trying to rectify that problem is occurring this Friday. So we're having a regional meeting with all the stakeholders that are affected by the lack of sand that we have. And you don't have to, you could just drive by the beach and you could see that we're 6 months away from when the dredging stopped, and we have to go another 1.5 years, and hopefully we're going to not incur any additional problems that require emergency fixes. So again, thank you very much for helping me, Mayor Pro Tem. I really appreciate that, and I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Councilmember Schnapp?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a couple of things here. The California Joint Powers and Insurance Authority, we had our annual meeting back in July. They continue to look at ways to reduce expenses and hone in on revenue, but also then have those benefits for members such as the City of Port Hueneme. There are over 120 organizations, both municipalities as well as special districts, that belong to CJPIA, and it was created about 2 decades ago because of the rising cost in terms of risk and insurance that cities were facing. And so this is a special group that covers from north to south throughout California, and I'm proud to be a member of that. Just a reminder here for my colleagues, if you want to attend the 24th Annual California JPIA Risk Management Educational Forum. It's actually called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of Risk Management, happening October 9th through 11th in Indian Wells. And so that's really a wonderful way to get a look at what's going on in terms of current events as well as trends that they're seeing, and opportunities to really hear best practices from different kinds of organizations as well as the JPIA. So that's coming up. One of the things that I want to tie in there, and maybe we put it on an agenda in the future, is this whole thing called loss cap. And so it's something effectively that we work together with the JPIA, but there's opportunities for the city to improve. I think it dovetails in beautifully, or could, with strategic planning and everything else. And so maybe we could bring it back, not immediately, but in the near future, and talk about what that is for a city, what that is for us, and maybe take a look at some avenues then to implement some of the ideas that come through with that. We do have a Friends of the Port Hueneme Library coming up with their annual tea. It's always a sellout, and so if you want to attend this year, it's Sunday, October the 20th from 2 to 4 p.m. If you want more information, you can either see the folks at the library, or I can give you some information as well. It's always a great way to showcase what the library looks like, but what it looks like on a Sunday afternoon with, fabulous tea sandwiches and tea. But also it is a fundraiser, and it's the largest fundraiser for the library. They try to raise over $3,000 that really goes to provide some excellent things for our community. So keep that in mind. Last but not least, with the cannabis report and our updating of our ordinance, I'd really like for us to consider putting on the agenda in the future how we can update it even further for the conditional use permit for special events category. And so that was because we saw this gentleman come up not once but several times, and it was almost as if it's a go and it's successful, he'll be back. And so I think that we can make it easier upon ourselves instead of seeing it every single time. He or others may want to build in a special event in our community, that it would be something that could lend itself more towards being implemented in a certain category. And we could just go with, one process to get that handled for the year. So that would be another suggestion I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Rollins.
Okay, just a few things. One of the things that I would like to see on the agenda, probably on a fairly regular basis for a while, tonight the community made a lot of comments and concerns to Miranda Park and what goes on there. Various different issues. We talked about lighting. We talked about potential people selling drugs there, bad trees, just a variety of different things. And these are all things that have come up time and time again. And I would just like to see that on, at least on the next agenda, council meeting, but maybe on future, just what progress we're doing on all those different things. And so and even perhaps like if we're not getting them accomplished, what the timeline is to get them accomplished, or if we plan on doing it at all. So I'd like to see, for lack of a better word, status of Miranda Park. And I'd like to see that kind of on a...
Perhaps, how about if we massage that a bit,
Okay.
to have it be like an overall landscaping report as well, because we were in the comment period, and I think I saw you taking notes, there were plants and trees that were mentioned that we might want to come back and
Sure,
give us an
just a
update.
general state of Miranda Park, it could be including like the landscaping. Pardon me? Oh, and it could be other parks too. I know I'm only focusing on Miranda because that was the main comments that were coming from the community, but a status, park improvements maybe in general.
Yes.
Okay, so then one of the organizations that I represent is REACH, Recreation, Education, Arts, Culture in Hueneme. And they are also having a fundraiser on October 25th. And it's going to be a haunted house psychic. They're going to have paid psychics there to bring out the ghosts, like the Ghostbusters and all that type of thing. It's going to be at the Bard Mansion. It's going to be scary. And so that's something that, we'd like the community to get involved in. It should be a lot of fun. Another thing is, as you may know, at the beach, there's a brick monument where various different people can put bricks up there recognizing people that they wanted to see recognized. And it's a fundraiser for REACH. They're going to be having the next installation of bricks within the next month. And there are still 50 bricks available after that, for people to get involved in. And this is again, a fundraiser that, a very community-based fundraiser. I'm also going to be attending the Association of Water Agencies as a board member, so I'll give a report on that the next time around. That's about it.
Good. Councilmember Gama, did I hear that you were going to attend that risk management? Yes, sir. Good. Okay. Anybody else? Sylvia?
I have one more thing to mention here is we've had a really good year, summer at the beach. It seems like a lot of people were even there on Labor Day in the fog. Because the fog came in, and there's still people really enjoying the beach. And so I want to applaud our team, from the chief and what we had to do with the transition of the homeless off of Ormond Beach, and but still having the beach open for people to enjoy, and the lifeguards that were out there continuously from Memorial Day through Labor Day, and our whole public works team and Mr. Villafana and his team, and everybody that helped keep and promote the beach over the course of the summer. So I really want to applaud everyone for doing a great job and for it being one of the wonderful assets that we have here in the community and making it so. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience have anything to share with the council?
Can I just say one more? Just one.
Sure. I'll let you go after him, Rich.
I'm just going to, oh, you're going to.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rich.
Okay. I just want to reinforce what Councilman Schnapp said. One of the big activities at the beach that's been fairly successful is the movies at the beach. And they've had a couple of times, and there's been a big turnout. I know Councilman Hernandez has come to the event, and
I was there on Friday.
you were
for
there on
Moana.
Friday, and it was a really nice turnout, and it kind of gives me and all of us an envision of what the beach can really be for the community, not all the negative things that we've been hearing about.
Great. We're going to need you to fill out a form
I'll
after,
fill out-
when you're done.
Yes,
When
sir.
you're done. So.
But basically, I've been living on the beach here, Surfside, for 5 years, and my work is I'm in productions. I'm a production coordinator, travel coordinator. I bring productions on location so they can do tax incentives, shoot in all different cities. I've been noticing that we had one shoot recently on here on the beach, and I'm wondering, like, who's bringing in all the productions? Who's actually up fronting? Who's inviting more production crews? I know Zuma shoots a lot on their beach. I mean, we haven't had any big production crews here, I mean, that I've known of. I just wanted to know, how can we drum up more production business? The whole idea about the filming on the beach, I love that idea. There's a couple of beaches that actually shoot programs on the beach. They do black and whites. They do like the whole, bring the community out. It's a big taco truck kind of thing. I think we should do something like that. I think we should involve like even a film festival, a beach film festival, something like that within our community. That lady that mentioned the beach thing, we used to have a beach festival.
Yeah.
My daughter misses the building the sandcastles.
Oh.
I mean,
Oh, the
that's the one
sandcastle
thing
contest.
every year.
Yeah, Donna
We're
Bree.
working on bringing that
She's
back.
been practicing every year, but you don't have it, so we're like on our own out there. Overall, I think you guys are doing an amazing job. You guys and your crew cleaning up the beach, the police officers cleaning up that area. It's been crazy. I walk out there. I mean, I don't even feel safe by myself, but now I do. And again, I just wanted to bring up more of bringing more film and production business to our city. I mean, we have the port, we have the beach, and there should be no reason that we can't shoot more productions out here.
Great. Thank you very much. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know, but Back to the Future. Right? And so a couple of years ago, they celebrated an anniversary for that film, and a few people actually gathered like in that spot where all of this was filmed. Right. And so I know that the EDCVC is really the Ventura County Film Commission, and so we work through the city and our community development director if we get those kind of contacts in the community. Yeah.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
we would like to adjourn this meeting tonight in memory of all those who lost their lives, but also in that tragic accident, but all those who are impacted and affected directly. It's going to be hundreds of people that have been, hurt and just had their hearts ripped out over this. So we'd like to close our meeting in memory of all those hurt and killed in the accident. And we will re-adjourn on September the 16th, 2019, 6:30.